Wow, that's really slow. Okay, crate, boom, crate. Okay, stuff in crate. Take stuff, put in crate. Oh, sharks. Okay, well that's pretty freaking scary. Thank God I got your freaking stuff. Whew. Oh God. Mama. Okay, well, dude, I got your stuff, so don't worry. You can join back now. I'll give you the cords. You can come here. I know you're not watching anymore, but still. Just... still. I'm gonna get your map. And... yeah, we're good now. Okay. Okay, so I got your map. So we're all good there. Now, I need to do something else now. I'm gonna get all this water up. There we go. Get these items. Okay, we're good? We're good? Okay, we good? We good. Alrighty, we're good. Why is that off center? Is that off center? No, that's not off center. This is though. Why is this off center? I need to make this center, because this is making me angry. Okay, there we go. Water. Good. Okay, Skelly boys. Oh man, this guy spawned in quick. Okay. Okay. Is that gonna work? It's gonna work? Okay. Okay. Okay, well that works now, so I can remove that torch and block this bad boy up. Now, what I get to do is, dig, 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 diggity dig dug. Okay, I'm gonna put some music on. I'm gonna put some music on, or Mr. Nightmare. Okay, video. No more full screen. There we go. I'm kind of retarded, not gonna lie. Fox. Ooh. I don't wanna die. Sometimes I wish I'd never been born at all. Carry on, carry on, as if nothing really matters. Okay, video. No more full screen. Mr. Nagmart.
Ages ago, when I was a boy, one of my favorite things to do would be to have sleepovers with my friends, especially my friend Joe. Joe had the coolest house layout. It was big and it had this huge basement with a pool table, air hockey table, and the entire basement looped around in a big circle. And we'd often ride his scooters around the loop in the basement while on our sugar rushes after hours of playing video games and eating junk food. The best part was his parents could never hear us down there, as they slept all the way upstairs. I'll never forget the night that my mom dropped me off at Joe's house after dinner. It was a night before a holiday, so we didn't have school the next day. Joe and I went straight to the basement and started playing one of his new video games on his PlayStation 1, when suddenly the door to the laundry room in the back creaked open. We paused the game and turned around to look, and yes, the door was now cracked open. I told Joe to go check it out. He said it's fine, it happens sometimes. To be honest though, sometimes at night alone in his basement, Joe and I would get spooked. I told him to go shut the door because something about having that door open leading into a big pitch black laundry room was uncomfortable. I think he agreed because he got up to close it. After a while of playing video games, I started riding Joe's bike around the loop of the basement, which honestly was a lot more fun than it sounds. But then something else happened. There was a noise, almost like the sound of a laundry machine door being banged or closed. They came from the laundry room again, obviously. This time Joe and I ran up the stairs freaked out, and Joe called his dad to come check the laundry room. His dad opened the door to the laundry room, had a quick 5-second look, and calmly said there's no one in there. So he went back upstairs to bed, and Joe and I continued to hang out for another hour or two. Then it came time to go to sleep. There were 2 couches down there, one in front of the TV, and then another towards the back of the basement by the bar. I slept on the couch towards the back of the basement. I didn't sleep long though. I woke up and it was still pitch black in the basement, no light shining through the small basement windows. It was still the middle of the night. I rubbed my eyes and sat up after getting this weird feeling of being watched. "Joe?" I said, just checking if he was awake. After saying his name, I heard and saw something moving in the darkness to the laundry room. And then the door creaked shut. I jumped off the couch to wake up Joe, but when I got to his couch, he wasn't there. That's when I became wise to what was going on. Joe was trying to scare me. I tiptoed to the door of the laundry room. I figured I would reverse it on him and scare him instead. I put my hand on the doorknob, and after a little mental buildup, I yanked the door open and went inside screaming. I turned on the light to the room, but Joe wasn't in there. Where could he be hiding? In that moment, I was beyond confused. I knew he had to be in the room. Then I noticed something through the glass of the dryer machine. I walked over to it and knelt down. Someone was in the dryer machine, crunched up and like a ball. You know how dryer machine doors usually have a sort of tinted glass that's hard to see through? Well, while I knew there was a person in there, it took me a few seconds to catch on that the person that was in the dryer machine looking back at me was not Joe. It was some grown man. I started screaming and ran all the way upstairs to Joe's parents' room. Everyone in the house came out from their bedrooms in response, including Joe. Joe apparently was having a hard time falling asleep on the couch, so he went upstairs to his bedroom. I yelled there was someone hiding in the dryer machine. As Joe's dad started his way storming to the basement, somebody ran through the living room and out the front door. Joe's mom let out a scream as his dad ran outside in his slippers to try to catch the man. Of course, being that he was only in slippers, he didn't have a chance. When he came back, Joe's mom had already called the cops. When the cops came, they asked me if there was anything specific that I could make out about the man. All I could say was that he was wearing dark clothes. Joe and I slept in his room. I slept on the floor with a blanket, and we kept the door locked. We took a break from the sleepovers for a while after that. This happened quite some time ago. In fact, it happened back in July 2013. It was my 13th birthday party, and my friends and I had been to Manchester for the day, before heading back to my house for a sleepover. A couple of them had stayed over before, but some hadn't, so I wanted to make a good impression. We all decided to sleep downstairs that night, as there wasn't enough room in my bedroom. We gathered our sleeping bags on the living room floor, watched cheesy rom-coms, and ate junk food until around 1 a.m. So we decided to hit the sack after our third movie. We turned off the lights with the exception of one, as although we didn't like to admit it then, we were a little afraid of the dark. It's a common thing to lie awake and chat at a sleepover after you say you're going to sleep. We were in the middle of whispering to each other who we thought our celebrity lookalikes were, when we heard it. A loud knock on our window cut through our conversation. "What was that?" said Emma, one of my friends. "It's probably just my dad playing a prank or something," I said. Although this whole situation was kind of freaking me out, my dad had done this type of thing before, so I assumed it must have been him. We were beginning to calm down when suddenly another forceful knock came upon the window. This made some of my friends scream. I assured everyone that, like I said, it was probably just my dad being goofy. So I went over to the window to catch him red-handed. The curtains were closed, so I had to pull a section of them back to see who was outside. As I did, I came face to face with a man who was most certainly not my dad. This man was bald with very thin eyebrows, and he had a missing tooth. He was sort of hunched over, and he looked at me with widened, glassy eyes. I immediately screamed and closed the curtain. At this point, my friends and I were pretty hysterical, and Emma began visibly shaking in fear. My parents were upstairs, so instinctively, I ran up to find them. As I got upstairs, my mom was talking to someone from her window. I didn't quite catch their conversation, but she told me what happened soon after. She said that she heard the knocking too, and when she looked out of her window to see who it was, the man looked up and asked her if she had seen a friend of his. I can't remember the name of the guy she said she was looking for, so we'll call him Paul. He kept asking for him over and over. "Have you seen Paul? Where is Paul? Has Paul been here?" Of course, my mom said she didn't know anyone named Paul. Eventually, she had to ask him to leave us alone, as he just kept wandering around our driveway. As the man finally left, I went back downstairs to calm my friends down. In retrospect, I feel bad for leaving them alone down there when some weird stranger was on our property. We all settled back down after that. However, my mom's maternal instincts kicked in, so she wanted to make sure he was gone completely. She left briefly to go around the block in her car to make sure he wasn't still in the area. The street was dimly lit by impractical streetlights, so she had to put her high beams on. As she was driving, she saw someone dash across the middle of the road. Thinking it was just a kid, she just kept driving, until the man who was at our window appeared again. But this time, he practically jumped in front of my mom's car. My mom quickly slammed on the brakes, but before she could confront him, he disappeared off into the night. We never found out who that guy was or what his true intentions were, and thankfully, we never saw him again. So much for wanting to make a good impression. My friend Jake slept over at my house one night when we were 12, and because of that, he may have possibly saved my life. It was a snowy weekend night. We watched a couple Christmas movies in my living room. My mom would bring us snacks and hot cocoa. She was always really nice to my friends when I had them over. My mom had to go to sleep kind of early because she worked. She and my dad had just recently divorced. By around 12, Jake and I went to my room, where we played Pokemon on our Game Boy Advances for a little. I don't remember much after that, besides falling asleep a little while later. I woke up in my bed to the room being extremely cold, and also feeling really thirsty. I went to the kitchen downstairs to get a cup of water. I noticed how much colder it had become upstairs as opposed to downstairs. I went back to my bed and tucked myself in. As I lay there trying to fall back asleep, I realized Jake was breathing weird, like a deeper, heavier breathing. It went on for some time, and after making a note of it in my head, it was all I could focus on. So I eventually threw a pillow at him. As he woke up, I told him to stop breathing so loud. He was confused as he looked up at me in my bed. He said, "What are you talking about?" I told him to just lower the volume of his breathing noises, as he was borderline snoring. Jake shifted his focus from me to down below my bed, and then he screamed. He crawled backwards until his back was pushing up against my dresser. I yelled, "What is it?" I hopped off my bed and looked under it where he was staring at. There was a middle-aged man with long hair laying underneath my bed, and he had his finger up to his lips saying, "Shh." It was a surreal sight to say the least. I felt like my heart was beating 200 beats per minute. The man whispered, "I know your mom. I'm here to see her." He started crawling out from under the bed. At that same moment, Jake and I ran from the room, screaming for my mom. We got to my mom's room and locked her bedroom door behind us. She was immediately distressed and confused by our screams. I barely had enough time to yell, "There's a man under my bed," before the doorknob to my mom's room started twisting and shaking. Then the sounds of the doorknob failing to turn shifted to heavy, aggressive bangs at the door. My mom ran to her phone and called 911. She was on the phone already in tears, while also screaming at the man on the other side of the door to leave us alone. The man tried kicking the door in, but I think when he heard my mom on the phone, he left the house. We were all in shock. It took the police only a couple minutes to arrive, at which point the coast was clear. The biggest window in our house, which was the window to the upstairs spare bedroom, was lifted up completely, which explained the cool air entering the house upstairs. That also explained the man's point of entry. I told my mom that man claimed he knew her, but she had no idea who this man could have been. My mom dropped Jake off home, and then she and I slept at my aunt and uncle's house for the rest of the night. The next day, my uncle installed a stronger lock on that upstairs window. This was like 16 years ago now. At this point, it's just a distant, haunting memory. But we never figured out who that man could have been, or how he could have possibly known my mother. Meeting my ex-girlfriend's family during the holidays was the worst weekend of my life. They lived in a different state than my ex Kaylee and I. We were on Long Island in New York. They were all the way up in Vermont. Our relationship was still kind of new, but she seemed to think it was serious enough for her parents to invite the two of us up there for Christmas. Kaylee had a really small family, so apparently it would be just the two of us, her brother, and her parents. Pulling up to the house was a pleasant surprise. The house was beautiful, and it stood on a huge, well-kept property secluded from any other houses. As Kaylee and I got out of my truck, her parents came out to the porch to greet us. First impressions, they seemed friendly and weird. An unexplainable type of friendly. The father didn't smile, but he shook my hand, patted me on the back, and said it was great to meet me. The mother hugged me, showing a lot more emotion, but something about her face was a bit off-putting. She had a really wide smile that seemed a bit exaggerated. The house was as beautiful inside as it was outside. It had a wooden lodge-type atmosphere to it. A little while later, I met Katie's brother Paul, who got home from work. He was a really socially awkward dude. He had a bowl cut and had a whole tattoo sleeve running up his arm. We had dinner, which was awkward at certain moments, but other than that, it was kind of normal. After dinner, we watched a Christmas movie in the living room. I tried not to make eye contact, but I could tell Paul kept looking at me for extended periods of time, on a few different occasions. At one point, I finally looked back at him, and we locked eyes for like 3 seconds before he turned back to the TV. He was giving me the most judgmental stare I'd ever seen, and it made me only more uncomfortable. At the end of the night, Kaylee and I were in the guest room, which had an attached bathroom. Kaylee was in the bathroom. She left her phone on the nightstand. I saw she got a text from her mom, and for some reason, feeling a bit snoopy, I got up to read it. It was not at all what I was expecting, and it changed the whole night completely. Briefly on the screen, it said, "Text from mom, do you think he suspects anything yet?" But the message quickly switched to new message, I'm guessing because she had iMessage notifications set to hide once the phone locks. I wanted to read what was said before that, but her phone had a password, unfortunately. I could actually feel my heart pumping now. Kaylee came back into the room. I kind of gave her the cold shoulder because my mind was racing. She seemed to notice. She was texting on her phone for a bit before turning out the lamp and going to sleep. I couldn't sleep though. I was rolling around for hours wondering what that text meant, and if it was about me. And what the hell was up with her brother? It was exactly 2 in the morning when I heard Kaylee get out of bed, but she was doing so very quietly. Normally I'd find this to be a kind gesture, but under the circumstances, I was finding this suspicious now. I didn't move. I pretended to still be asleep. I heard her come to my side of the bed and stand there for a few moments, then leaving the room and walking downstairs. Then I heard someone else walking downstairs, and then another person. Something was going on. I went over to the top of the stairs to listen to what was going on downstairs. There was a bunch of talking, but in very low voices. I walked down a few stairs quietly. The talking was coming from the dining room by the stairs. It sounded like they were planning something. I heard Kaylee say something like, "When I go back up, you stand by the door." Then I heard her brother say something, but what was going on was really starting to hit me in the face, or at least what I think was going on. I went back to the room to grab my stuff and leave. As I was grabbing the keys, I noticed something in the corner of the room. I turned the lamp on, which exposed Kaylee's dad sitting in a chair in the corner of the room, blank expression on his face behind his glasses, staring at me. I screamed at least 4 times, "You're all crazy," as I ran to my car. I put the car in drive practically before the car was even fully on and floored it out of that long driveway back to the road. I didn't stop once except for gas. And at that gas stop, I checked my phone and saw Kaylee texted me saying, "What the fuck happened?" I didn't respond. Not until later that night when I got home. I said, "I don't know what you and your sick family were planning on doing to me. I don't want to know. Don't ever contact me or come near me again, and I won't report this." I said this only because I knew there was no proof at all of what happened or what might have been about to happen. She never replied. It was Christmas Eve night, 1 in the morning. I was in our den watching TV because I always like to stay up extra late on Christmas Eve. To make things more festive and cozy feeling, it was during a snowstorm. I left the window open and the backyard light on just so I could also have the view of the snow in the backyard. I was focused on the TV at the moment, but through my peripheral vision, I thought I could briefly see something in the backyard. I turned to the window, but besides the falling snow, there was nothing going on out there. Still, I got up and went to the window just to be sure. Nothing. I sat back down on the couch, but now I was constantly checking the window to see if anything was outside. About 10 minutes later, I calmed down and forgot about it and reverted my full attention back to the movie. Then I heard, loud and clear, the backyard gate slam shut. Now I almost knew someone was back there. I slipped on my shoes and a jacket and went out to the backyard to check it out. There were boot marks in the snow leading from one gate across the yard to the other gate. I was not feeling brave enough to follow them, so I went back inside. As I was taking off my boots and jacket, I saw a track of wet, muddy snow on the den carpet, leading from the office to the hallway that led to the living room. That was also the way to my parents' room. First, I had to go to the office to see how they broke in, so I followed the boot marks to the office without turning on any lights to make my presence known. I was expecting to see one of the windows busted open, but everything was intact. Then I realized the boot marks didn't start in this room. They ended in this room. I slowly lifted my head up to the garage door in the corner of the room. It was open, and right under the doorway there was someone in a winter coat, jeans, and boots, squatting down as if trying to hide, back facing me, but his head turned to look at me. I stood there with my mouth open in horror for a few seconds before I ran for it to my parents' room, screaming the whole way there. I got my dad to come out as quickly as possible, and on our way to the garage together, we heard the actual garage door opening. By the time we got there, the intruder was gone. Realistically, we could have followed his boot marks, but who knows how far he'd gotten by that point. We found out he broke in through an unlocked living room window. Just goes to show, if somebody has intentions of breaking into your house, they'll find a way, which is why you should always lock all your doors and windows. I'm the oldest of 4, and during the events of this story, I was 16, my younger sister was 11, and my 2 younger brothers were 8 and 7. My parents and their group of friends were a part of a club that was basically for rich, snobby people. The club always hosted a Christmas party one night in December each year at a big fancy firehouse. Of course, for all the younger kids, like my siblings, somebody would always dress up as Santa Claus and hand out the presents that were left in a sack by a chair, which had a red blanket over it. This year, my dad's best friend Michael was dressing up as Santa. He was sitting at the same table as us, so when the time came for him to leave and get changed into the Santa suit, I saw him get up and walk out the door. There were like 20 young kids there, they never noticed. Everyone was having a good time, chatting and whatnot, kids playing on the floor in the center of the room, when the door to the firehouse opened and bells were heard jingling. All the kids jumped up yelling Santa, and in came Michael in a surprisingly unimpressive Santa costume. It honestly looked like the cheapest thing he could find at Party City. A serious downgrade from last year. The hat and the beard were alright, but the costume just seemed cheap. Not the usual costume the club supplied. He chuckled and did his best Santa impression. I had to say, he was doing a really good job of changing his voice though. I saw a few of my parents' friends whispering to each other. Michael grabbed the bag of gifts and said in his best Santa voice he'd be right back with the presents. He sounded so different though. He walked out the door with the bag of gifts. That's when my dad and a couple other guys ran after him yelling, "Hey." I still didn't know what was going on. Not until my mom told me that wasn't Michael. I wanted to feel important, I guess, so I ran outside to the parking lot as well, where I found my dad and 2 other guys standing there, looking around dumbfounded. The man dressed as Santa was gone. The real thing they were concerned about was where Michael was. Michael's car was also missing. I asked them if they were sure that wasn't Michael. They were all positive though. We tried calling Michael, but his phone was off. We tried his house phone after a while too, which went to voicemail. We had to send a search party, but we couldn't find him anywhere though. Eventually my dad and I returned to the firehouse to pick up my mom and siblings. Just about everyone went home by then. I waited outside. I heard a scream for help in the distance. It came from the woods, deep in the woods. I ran to the tree line to scream back Michael's name. He yelled back help again. It was him. I was too excited to go back for my dad, so I ran into the woods following his screams for help, and I found him, tied to a tree in a bloody mess. Blood was dripping from his forehead down to his face. He looked like he'd been beaten by a blunt object. I cut the little rope with my key, and he struggled to his feet. I walked him back to the parking lot, and he screamed when he saw his car was gone. When Michael left the building planning to get changed into the Santa costume, he was jumped by 3 guys wearing masks, one of whom struck him in the forehead with something metal repeatedly until he was knocked out. Next thing he knew, he woke up tied to a tree in the woods. It's sick to think that 3 or 4 men could have set up a plan like this, involving harming somebody just to steal a bunch of gifts from children, some of them pretty expensive. And to add insult to injury, they stole Michael's $50,000 car. I felt terrible for him, and I still do. It's not the kind of story that he can just bring up for fun. It's still a painful story to tell, even for me. My immediate family always hosted Christmas when I was younger. At the time, we lived on the upper level of a 2-family house. My parents owned the house and rented the bottom floor out to multiple tenants throughout the years. Christmas time of 2012, a new tenant had just moved in downstairs. He was a quiet-seeming 30-something-year-old male, and quiet was the kind of tenant my parents were looking for. Unfortunately, a few days into him moving in downstairs, there would be a lot of noises at off hours of the night. Like, for example, the front door would open and shut numerous times throughout the night, and sometimes there would be loud talking, in some instances yelling. My dad went downstairs one night to see what the commotion was, and to ask him to keep the noise down. That was the start of my dad's suspicions about that guy downstairs. Fast forward to Christmas Eve night. We had the whole family over, dining room table stretched out with all 20 seats taken. My Uncle Jake is a heavy smoker, so he goes outside to smoke several times throughout the night. After our main course, Uncle Jake went outside for yet another smoke. He mistakenly left his phone on the table, however, and when it rang a few times after he went outside, my dad ordered me to go run his phone to him outside. So I grabbed his flip phone and ran it down the stairs. However, before I went out the front door, I stopped and noticed the back door was open. See, when you walk into the house, there's a little hallway with 3 doors. One door which led to the downstairs apartment, the front door, and then a hallway that stretched to the back door. The back door was open, so I figured my uncle went out back. The phone was still ringing, so I hurried to the backyard to find my uncle, but he didn't seem to be back there. Just when I was about to give up, I heard someone in the shed, and the shed door was open. I called for my uncle, and someone came out of the shed. It was too dark to see him, but I was pretty sure it was my uncle. He started walking over to me fast. At first I assumed because he wanted to answer his phone in time, but when he got close enough to the lights from inside of the house, I could see his face. It wasn't my uncle, but rather the tenant from downstairs. For some reason, the way he was approaching me I found intimidating, so I turned and ran for the door. I slammed it in that man's face and went to the front yard, where I found my Uncle Jake smoking. I stood by him and told him about the downstairs tenant, and how he seemingly just charged at me. My uncle is the kind of guy to not really take things I say seriously, or he's just not that kind of person to confront someone. I stayed with him until he finished his smoke because I was uncomfortable. Then we walked back upstairs to the dinner table together, where I told my dad about the tenant in the shed and how he followed me. There was a silence at the table, and my dad seemed a little concerned, but I guess he didn't want to ruin the remainder of our Christmas dinner, so he waited until we were done to check outside. When he came back up, he said the neighbor wouldn't answer his door, but that the shed outside was shut. A couple hours later, the last of our family left, and my immediate family started getting ready for bed. I stayed up in the living room by the fire and tree because I liked the lighting the two gave off. I watched a Christmas movie. I guess I nodded off at some point while watching it. However, I do remember waking up suddenly from a kind of half-sleep and hearing a creaking on the stairs. I was too tired to move from my laying position, plus I assumed it was just my mom, dad, or sister, not to mention our giant Christmas tree blocked my view of the stairs. We had all carpeted floors upstairs, so I couldn't hear whoever it was roaming around, but I heard a door down the hall open, probably my sister going back to bed. By now the fire seemed to be almost dead, and the movie I was watching was over. The clock under the TV read 1 in the morning. I figured I'd just stay on the couch at that point because I was so comfortable. A few minutes later, I heard something rustling by the tree. It sounded like an ornament fell off of it. Someone had definitely walked into it. I flipped on my side and looked at the tree, but it was as still as it always was though. I flipped back on my other side, eyes still open, and saw a man standing over me, bending slightly. Of course, initially my first reaction was to scream. My second reaction was to analyze the face to see if it was my father, and when I realized it wasn't my father, rather the downstairs tenant, I screamed even louder. The man tried to cover my mouth, but at that point I think he realized it was too late. Everyone heard me. He ran for the stairs just as my dad stormed out of his room. My dad chased after him, but he was already driving down the street. I think when he was standing over me, he was making sure I was asleep before robbing the place or something. Fortunately for us, my parents had copies of his ID and other important information, which my parents used to find him and sue him for breaking and entering, and we won the case in a landslide. Don't let that take away from the fact that it was still an insanely scary thing to go through. It was Christmas Eve of 2015. I had recently gotten a new job as a psychiatric nurse, but I had to start with the overnight shifts, and that included Christmas Eve night, which was a Thursday. Well, technically it was a Friday by the time I arrived to work. But anyway, most of my shifts are slow and boring, with a lot of sitting around a computer for most of the night, since most of the patients are asleep during the hours that I was there. Occasionally I'd have to check on patients and observe their behavior, or deal with patients who would become restless in the middle of the night. Dealing with so many people with mental disabilities at once was a lot to take in at first, but the Christmas decorations scattered throughout the building brought a little extra cheer to the place. At night, the main lights in the hallways go out and a dim set of lights turn on. These dim lights mixed with the Christmas lights that had been hung up all over the place created a more relaxed, comfortable setting. There was one particular patient who had been creeping me out. Her name was Abatha. She was an old, sickly lady with severe schizophrenia. She oftentimes would mumble to herself incomprehensible things, and sometimes she'd say things out loud that I'd assume were directed at me, but she'd just be talking to herself. It was about 3 in the morning when I went to go check on Abatha, who had been awake the whole night. I came in and asked if she needed anything, and she just looked at me with a horrific smile and laughed. It gave me chills because I felt like I was witnessing something from a scary movie. She looked away from me and started muttering something. I didn't understand most of it, but the words that did pop out to me were, "Check the bathroom." I asked her to repeat herself, but she didn't acknowledge me. She just turned to her side and rested her head on the pillow. I tried to get her to confirm she wanted me to check the bathroom, but she wouldn't answer now. So I checked the bathroom across from her bed in her room, but as I expected, there was nothing out of the ordinary. I left her room and went back to my desk in the hall. Then I looked at the bathroom door across from my desk. My curiosity got the better of me, so I went into the bathroom, but the lights wouldn't turn on. I stood by the doorway listening for a moment, and I heard breathing and then a click sound from one of the stalls. I went to get the door stopper from behind the desk and wedged it under the bathroom door so that the light from the hall would let me see at least a little bit into the bathroom. I got on my knees and checked under the stalls from a distance. No feet could be seen in either of the stalls, though. One stall of the two had its door shut, though. I went up to it and stuck my eye through the crack of the door. It was really dark, but I felt like I could see something at the back of the stall. I got back down on my knees to look under the door, but when I did, I couldn't see what I thought I just saw. I got back up and took one more look through the crack of the door, and there was someone's face right on the other side, peeking through the crack just as I was. I almost fell to the floor in fright, but managed to run to the door and slam it shut. I grabbed the key from the desk and locked the bathroom door. I told another nurse that there was someone in the bathroom, but when we checked together, not only did the lights now work, but the stalls were both open and no one was inside either of them. It was impossible for someone to have left the room. I locked the door. That night, before my shift ended, I tried to question Abatha about what was in the bathroom, but she wouldn't answer me. Just as I gave up and walked to the door with my jacket on, I heard her say, "Merry Christmas." I turned and saw her giving me a smile. Only the smile didn't give me a good feeling. There was something unsettling about it. I had to turn and leave. I had to work with Abatha for a few more weeks before she was transferred to another center for hospice care. To this day, I still feel there was a connection between Abatha and whatever I saw in that bathroom. It's literally just one of those stories I just can't even try to understand or rationalize, but it still haunts me. Last year for Christmas, I wanted to do something new with my girlfriend. We just got a new apartment together last year and still live in it to this day. It was our first Christmas in the apartment, however, and neither of us had ever cut down our own tree. So I came up with the idea to go cut down our own tree. Luckily, we live in New Hampshire, so spruce trees happen to grow in our state. My girlfriend Tristan and I took a short road trip on a snowy evening to a forest full of spruce trees. I chose to go while it was snowing because I felt it made the whole experience more Christmassy. I pulled my pickup truck up into what appeared to be a small opening on the side of the road. It was hard to tell given that there was snow on the ground. I heard gravel crunching under the tires as I pulled off the road. It was a perfect place to leave the truck while Tristan and I went to find a tree. We were in a very hilly part of the state, so we had to do a lot of uphill walking. Unfortunately, my girlfriend was complaining a lot. She didn't seem to find our little field trip to be as fun of an idea as I did. We pressed on uphill through the snow, searching for a small enough spruce tree that could fit in our living room. Most of the trees we were finding were too big. Eventually we found that perfect one though, just the right size. I gave the tree one good pat and shake before I lifted the axe I was carrying into the air and began chopping away at the trunk. The trunk was relatively skinny, so after a bunch of good hits, the tree toppled over with one good kick. Of course, I wouldn't be carrying it alone, and I'd prefer not to drag it all the way down the hill through the snow, so I asked Tristan to grab the top end while I grabbed the trunk. Then she suddenly complained that she didn't have gloves. There was an extra pair in the car. I didn't realize she didn't bring them though. I threw her the keys and told her to hurry back to the trunk and get the gloves. She ran off back down the hill, and I was left alone standing in the middle of the woods, next to the freshly cut tree. Tristan was taking a while, so I sat down on the trunk of the tree and observed my surroundings. Pine trees as far as the eyes can see, which wasn't too far anymore considering it was just about dark now. I turned on the flashlight I brought with me to make it easier for Tristan to find me again. Other than the sound of the wind and tiny snowflakes hitting the ground, it was completely silent. It was actually a little creepy sitting out there all alone. Finally, I heard the sound of boots walking in the snow nearby. I called out in a loud yell Tristan's name and waved my flashlight in that direction. The footsteps stopped, however, and there wasn't a response. I thought she must have been trying to sneak up on me, so I figured I'd turn the tables on her. I placed the flashlight on the stump, aimed it out into the woods, and did the best I could to quietly go hide behind a tree to wait for her to come out. I knelt down behind a big pine tree and heard the footsteps coming closer. Finally, someone came running into the light of the flashlight And I mean like full on charging out. But it wasn't my girlfriend. It was some random guy in a coat with a hood covering his head. He stopped and looked down at the flashlight, grabbed it, then turned it off. And now that it was dark again, I could barely see him. Based on the way he charged up to the flashlight like that, I couldn't imagine he meant well. I took one big breath before I started sprinting down the hill back to the car. It made so much noise that I knew he had to have heard it, but I didn't want to turn around and look. When I got about halfway down the hill, I started hearing screams. They were the screams of Tristan shouting out my name in what sounded like a panic. When I got to the bottom of the hill, I started to hear the truck's horn honking. I made it to the truck and jumped into the driver's seat. Tristan was sitting in the car waiting. She screamed at me to drive, but I didn't need to hear it from her to know to do that. As I drove the truck out of that little clearing, we both looked back and saw a man standing where my truck was not even 5 seconds ago, watching us drive away. It was a long drive home, but by the time we got back to our town, we stopped at a Home Depot and picked up a tree there. Never again will we attempt to cut down our own tree.
So we were having our Christmas Eve dinner. Turkey, stuffing, and other dishes that you would expect to get on Thanksgiving night. We don't have a big family. It was my grandparents and uncles from my mom's side of the family. At the time we lived in a duplex with some guy and his girlfriend on the other side. We never really saw them much. Strangely, we had a door that connected our sides, and no, that's not something that most duplexes have. It had a very unique kind of lock though. It had to be unlocked from both sides to be opened, and it could open in either direction. I only saw it open once before the two moved in, ever since the door had been locked, at least on our side. While we were sitting at the dinner table eating, the doorknob to the door that separates the sides of our duplex twisted and turned before the lock would block it. It was not accidental, as it was going on for at least 10 seconds. My dad got up and walked over to the door, placed one hand on the lock and one hand on the doorknob. "You need something?" There was no answer. He unlocked our side of the door and swung it open. Their side of the duplex was completely pitch black. It seemed as if nobody was home. It was only about 6 o'clock, and we were certain we saw them leaving earlier. Me and my dad went to check out the window, and their car was gone too. Being good neighbors, we assumed the worst, that there may have been an intruder, so me, my dad, and my uncle went to the other side to investigate. We flipped on all the lights and checked every corner and every crevice of the small first floor. Then we heard a thud and a crack from upstairs. It was pressure on the floorboards. I was freaked out, so I stayed behind while my dad and uncle ran upstairs. I felt my heart skip a beat when a huge commotion erupted from upstairs, before the scream from my uncle echoed across the duplex even to the other side as my whole family got up from the table now. Moments later, my dad came rushing down with my uncle beside him, with his hand covering his lower shoulder or chest area. There was a stab wound. We all hurried back to our side of the apartment and locked the door. We dialed 911 and simultaneously heard rapid stomping coming from the other side, and then heavy banging and ramming into the door to the point where there were small chips and cracks forming. We could hear the grunting and screaming of the man as he rammed into the door. My other uncle and my dad each grabbed kitchen knives. I armed myself as well. They told all of us to stand back while they waited by the door. Thankfully, the man on the other side gave up before the door gave in, and we heard him exit out the front door. We watched through the window, and we all saw his face as he ran through the snow and turned to see us through the glass. He took off in his black Honda Civic down the slushy roads. It doesn't end there. The following year, the same neighbors still lived there, and they seemed to be having a Christmas get-together with a few people. By chance, I was looking out my bedroom window, being a sketchy snoop, when I recognized one of their guests to be the same man who had allegedly broken into their side of the duplex. When I told my dad, he agreed, and we approached them about it. He denied any knowledge of what we said, and even our neighbors defended him, saying he was from out of state. There was nothing we could do for proof, but we knew one thing. Those neighbors, for whatever reason, set that up. We moved out about a month later after our new-grown fear of those neighbors became too much. This happened when I was only 5 years old. It was Christmas Eve night, meaning I guess it was technically Christmas, and I had awoken at probably 3 a.m. or something. I walked downstairs to the living room out of my little boy curiosity to see if Santa had delivered any presents yet. The tree was full of presents underneath already. I was so happy. Santa had come already. But what was this? There was someone in the kitchen going through the fridge. I remember stepping into the kitchen and seeing a really tall man going through the fridge chugging a milk carton. When he spotted me, he put the carton back in the fridge and shut the door. He then put his fingers on his lips to tell me to be quiet. Are you Santa? I asked him. Yes, I am, he told me quietly. He walked past me, patted me on the head, and stepped into the living room next to the tree. I don't know what I was thinking, even at 5 years old, as he wasn't wearing anything even resembling Santa. He looked around at all the gifts. I thanked him for all the presents as he began picking up the bigger boxes. I remember being confused, and I'm pretty sure I asked him why he was doing what he was doing, but I don't remember exactly what he said. I believe it was along the lines of, just replacing the gifts with better ones in my sled. I believed whatever he said though. He walked out the back door with 3 boxes, came back momentarily to grab more, then left once again. He came back in and patted me on the back and told me not to tell my parents that I saw him. I smiled and agreed, and he took off with the boxes. I waited for him to come back with the replacement gifts, but he never did. I eventually went up to tell my parents despite what he said. When my parents realized I wasn't joking, they sat up in shock and fear and ran past me downstairs. When they saw half the presents were gone and the back door was left wide open, my mom screamed like a deranged person. I remember my parents were practically scolding me, demanding for me to describe the person who entered our house. Of course, being 5 years old, the description I gave was anything but useful. All I probably told them was that he was tall. It's been almost 15 years now though, and at this point for me, being that I was only 5 years old, it's nothing but a story to tell, rather than a bad memory at all. Did you ever used to have a fear of those guys who would dress up as Santa Claus in the mall or at Christmas parties? Up until the age of about 8, I certainly did. I think I was 6 or 7 years old when me and my mom were walking through the mall with all of the Christmas festivities and decorations up. Festive bands playing jingle bells, a giant tree in the center of the mall, and of course a mall Santa sitting in a chair covered by a green blanket. There was a small line of kids and parents waiting to sit on the Santa's lap. Maybe 2 or 3 kids. My mom insisted I sat on his lap. Normally it would be the other way around, the kid begging the parent to sit on the lap, but she knew how shy I was. There wasn't anyone by the mall Santa's side, like one of those people who calls the next child up. It was just him. When I sat on the stranger's lap, he grabbed me by the chest and said softly in my ear, "What do you want for Christmas?" I think I said a Game Boy Advance. He laughed and assured me I would receive one. Then, for whatever reason, my mom walked up to the Santa and said something quietly to him. He chuckled in response to whatever she said and then said no problem. My mom told me to wait there by the Santa for a few minutes until she came back. At this point, there were no more kids waiting to sit on his lap, so his attention was directed at me. He told me to come over and sit on his lap again. I somehow obeyed, despite my fear of Santa Claus. When I sat on his lap, he pulled me closer to him so that my back was leaning on him. When I think back on this moment now, it's all the more painful and creepy. He then whispered in my ear that he had a Game Boy Advance outside by his sled, And if I followed him, I would get it right now and wouldn't have to wait until Christmas. My fear suddenly turned to excitement as I believed him. We both stepped off the chair and I followed him down one of the exit hallways, but halfway through, he stopped and told me we should take a bathroom break first. We stepped into the bathroom and he quickly locked the door. I turned and looked at him as he looked at me, but before anything else could happen, there was a frantic banging at the door. Somebody on the other side was yelling to open up. The Santa opened the door and a man pulled him out and shoved him. The man then escorted me back to the center of the mall, asking me where my mom went. I watched as a fake Santa casually walked out the exit door and out of my sight. When my mom came back, the man explained everything. I'm pretty sure he was watching the whole time. So he and my mom asked around to see if the mall hired any mall Santas for the day. They did not. Whoever that was just a pervert dressed as Santa to get kids to sit on his lap and possibly wait for a perfect opportunity to snatch one, just like he almost did me. This story took place about 5 years ago on Christmas Eve night. It was around 1 in the morning, and I had just finished placing presents under the tree. I went upstairs to brush up and everything, then came back downstairs to the kitchen to get a glass of water before bed. My son Jake, who was 4 at the time, was standing by the stairs leading to the basement. I asked him what he was doing up so late. He pointed down the stairs and said, "Santa." I picked him up and carried him back to his room. I took a glass of water and went to bed. I woke up around an hour later to my son running down the hall outside my room. I sighed and got out of bed. As I was going down the stairs, I saw Jake by the tree looking at presents. Then he ran past me into the basement stairs again. He pointed down the stairs again. This time I looked down the stairwell, and my heart dropped as I saw a black figure sitting on the bottom step. I almost screamed, but I somehow held it in. I pulled my son quietly away from the basement door and closer to the front door of the house. I moved my hand away from my son's mouth to reach for the lock in the doorknob. I tried to pull the door open as quietly as possible, but it was pointless. The squeaky hinges let out the usual ear-piercing screeches, and I cringed in my mouth and eyes as I did. Suddenly, there were heavy stomps coming from up the basement stairs. I screamed and pushed open the storm door and practically threw Jake outside. I shut both doors behind us and we ran to the neighbor's house. I rang the doorbell as fast as possible, probably 30 times before they answered. After that, we went inside and stayed there and waited for the police. Whoever that person was gone though, as determined after the police conducted a thorough investigation of the house. I ended up lying to Jake, telling him that actually was Santa Claus, but a few years later, he remembered the incident and became a little more wise to what actually happened.
You hear what I said though?
No, what did you say?
You want to play Minecraft with me and my cousin, because my cousin's going to be here in a minute, but I doubt he's going to want to play on her.
Well, I mean, I'm just playing on the realm, so you can join if you'd like.
That's the thing, I doubt he.
Well, if he doesn't want to, then he doesn't want to. You wanna know something?
What?
I haven't seen my cousins in over 5 years.
Why?
Because I don't have any aunts and uncles. Well, I have one uncle, but it's a half uncle, so it doesn't really count, really, and he's not even 19 yet, I don't think, so he doesn't have kids of his own, and my other uncle is no longer with us, and my other uncle
What?
is...
I'm here because I'm getting it ready for AJ.
I don't know what he's doing,
What?
but he's butthole. He just kind of ditched our family.
So when AJ comes, I can't play on it?
AJ sounds like a very annoying person. Just purely based off of his name, I don't like him already.
reason why his name is AJ is because his name's Andrew Jr., but his dad's name is also Andrew.
I was about to say, is his name Andrew Jackson? That'd be pretty cool.
But he doesn't like going by Andrew Jr., so he goes by AJ.
Yeah. I'm still gonna sign a petition one day, or make a petition one day, to make it to where everyone gets one free name change whenever they're 18. Like, they can change their name to anything they want for free at 18. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That way, if your mom and dad give you a name like Shalaquisha, like this one kid in my school that I used to know. Yeah, Shalaquisha. Spelled with 8 U's. There were 8 U's in her goddamn name. Shalaquisha. I hate that name.
That's weird.
I feel so bad for that girl. But yeah, I want everyone to be able to change their name at least once when they're an adult, because Shalaquisha is not a very good name. It took me 2 hours to figure out how to pronounce it.
I would probably, like, literally end life if my name was Shalaquisha.
I don't remember what she said her dad's name was, but I know someone heard that she, here, okay. She told someone in school that her mom's name was Shalaquansha or Shalasquansha or something weird like that. It's really hard to pronounce. I don't remember what they said her dad's name was. And I went to Newton Conover Middle.
Those are like weird names.
Yeah, Newton Conover is a horrible school, and anyone that goes there is brain dead, including me. But luckily, I'm not anymore. Sometimes. Sometimes I still am, but it's okay. I can't find any blood diamonds. This is so annoying. Just redstone, redstone, redstone.
Little cave house that I made?
No, I did not.
It's by spawn. It says, parks do not enter. To live here, it's 10 copper or something.
Oh, dude, guess what I ran? Guess what I happened? Okay, hold on. Let me think. Guess what happened earlier today?
What?
I met a hacker.
On what?
Minecraft, obviously. What else would I?
Yeah, like what on Minecraft?
Oh, you know, just the typical give myself everything kind of hacker. They X-rayed, do all that normal stuff.
Yeah, but what server or whatnot did you find it on?
My realm. They joined off my stream, and yeah.
Oh. So I'm guessing you banned them?
Well, yeah, no crap. I told them that if they kept doing the stuff, then I would ban them, because I don't want hackers in my game, because I want everything to be fair and fun, and you actually have to, like, work for stuff. Oh, yeah. Christ. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, it was just one of those guys who invite everyone on their friends list and just make everyone angry kind of people.
No.
Yeah, you know. Oh, he invited me again. Wow.
I'm gonna play in the realm for a little bit.
Okay. Before Andrew Jackson gets there, I mean. I don't think I could ever get over that name. It's just such a horrible name.
Yeah, guess what? Guess what my name was for a while?
What?
EJ.
EJ?
No, TJ.
What in the heck?
Exactly.
That is one of the most putrid names I've ever heard. It's just T and J. That's not even a name. That's just... What kind of sound does that pronounce? What? How do you pronounce that properly?
And the only thing that made me feel good about it is that my cousin's name was AJ. So at least I had someone that kind of had a similar name.
At least you had someone to suffer with.
My iron dagger or whatever, no, iron harvester is about to break.
Oof.
And I only have 2 copper.
I just hit 30 levels, and I really don't want to die, but I feel like I'm going to any second now.
Keep inventory on.
No, it is not. This is a 100% legit survival world. You can get achievements and stuff, even though that retard hacked and made me scared.
So is one of my worlds that me and my cousin play on that I was just on, like,
Oh, wait,
before I got
crap.
on this.
I need, well, actually, no, I don't need that.
Copper. I should probably go back up before my pick break, but I don't want to, because I am dumb.
Okay, I'm gonna go up to the surface and gather a bunch of garbage. I've been down in a cave for like 2 days in Minecraft, which is
I
like an
literally
hour.
just started this realm. I started playing on it today.
Cool.
What happened to the old realm?
I'm not really sure.
Are you gonna ever put it back or no?
Maybe.
Okay, I got 15 copper. Okay, so I can make like... I'm gonna make like 3 more iron... No, 2 more
Christ.
iron picks.
No, 260. 260. Whoops. Okay.
I'm running low on food. No. No. Please, no. All I have is rotten flesh.
I don't really care about you, skeleton. I've killed like 8 billion of your family, so.
I only have rotten flesh. How am I gonna eat? No, God, please, no.
Here, I'm coming to my house. What are your cords?
Hold on. First, let me see if I can even find how to get back to my little cave thing.
Ayo, 2 phantom membranes. Let's go. Hadouken. 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 Hadouk. Oh.
Okay, now, how far away from spawn am I? Holy crap. Stupid zombie. Inspired.
My mom sent me a gift saying, "Get in my belly," and now I'm frightened.
Oh, I'm close to my thing. So just let me, eat this rotten flesh and, okay, my quartz are 29, 64, and 44.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna come find you and steal you and take you back to my house, and yeah. You're gonna live
my
here.
cousin's here. I'll be right back. Yep, he's here. try to convince him to play on their own.
Doubt it.
But I doubt it's gonna work.
Yeah, no, just said that.
I mean, it might.
No, it won't.
But
No, it won't.
I'm not really having faith.
It won't, trust me. It won't work. I've seen this kind of thing happen billions of times. None of it, never, nah. Nah, nope, 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 nope. No,
Waiting for AJ to get up here?
Oh, you get baby soon.
My grandpa's like, Tyler, what are you doing? Oh shit, I'm waiting for him to get up here.
Hey, DJ! Hey, DJ!
Hi, AJ. Nice.
Hey, DJ. DJ, come here, DJ. Give your brother a sloppy kiss. Oh, yeah. Or your cousin a sloppy kiss. Oh, yeah. Jesus
Is it we playing around with me?
Christ.
Why? Me and my friend. Oh. The only reason why he doesn't want to play is because it has a weird texture pack on it.
Bro, that's like the whole thing. That's like the whole gimmick. Is that it has a weird texture pack.
Iron's now copper.
The whole gimmick of this texture pack is that it's a different texture pack.
Okay.
I wouldn't have made a freaking texture pack.
I might want to leave. Because you don't know how much fucking time she spent into this shit.
About 8.5 hours. It's only like 8.5 hours of my hard time, but you know, it's okay. It's
yeah,
okay.
only 8.5 hours. Yeah,
it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
But if you want to play Minecraft with us, me and him got a no cheat world that we can play.
You know, I only play my worlds because
I got almost one on that.
I don't like that I can only play my worlds anymore, but like I get really nervous if people want me to join their worlds, because every time I like do anything, like I make any progress of any shape or form on their worlds, I always get backstabbed and I lose all my progress. And they just quit talking to me, they quit the world, they never get on anymore.
Why do you
Something
think I'm
happens.
gonna backstab you?
No, I wasn't meaning it like that. I know you won't, but I still can't trust anyone with that kind of stuff anymore. I mean, 10 years of this exact same thing happening.
I get to play for like hours at end. So, you can join because I get a...
I know
Yeah,
I can. I'm just...
At like 7 o'clock your time, I have to go. She has a different time zone, AJ.
Oh, baby, a triple. Oh, yeah. Unbreaking 3, Silk Touch 1, Efficiency 3. I'll take that. Thank you very much.
AJ, by the way, I made another, what's it called? Anvil.
Okay, Unbreaking 3. No, that doo-doo head.
Because this one's about to break. But are you gonna join?
No, probably not. Sorry. I have to pee, so BRB.
No, not you, my cousin. AJ, are you gonna join? Is he doing what? Sucking a... Wait, no. Wait, I forgot. Where's our mine? Do we even have a mine? Kind of forgot. Sorry. And I need to get some torches. I don't have any coal. I literally have no coal. Like, no coal whatsoever. 4 coal. 4 coal. Nice.
If you couldn't tell by my obnoxious and pointless stomping, I'm back.
What? I did not hear one word you just said.
If you couldn't tell by my pointlessly obnoxious stomping, I'm back.
I seriously did not hear one word.
Big chungus unga bungus. I say a big chungus. I say a big chungus bungus. Big unga bunga chunga chunga. It take a 1 crossbow and then a 2 and then boom, good crossbow. Frick. Crossbow. Piercing 1. That's garbage, but okay. Ew. 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 I said a booma chicka booma boom chung boom chum. I still feel like I could get a better enchantment, so I'm just gonna retry. Frick. Efficiency 2, I'll take it, whatever, I'll take it, okay.
You gotta say, I'll open it! If you're opening it, so I can hear you. Because you were trying to punch it.
Last year on Christmas Eve, I was working late. I'm 23. I work in New York City and commute home every day on the train. Since I'm one of the younger ones in the office, I got stuck with one of the worst shifts, so I wasn't able to get home until 5 o'clock. My family had already left a whole hour earlier to go to my cousin's house, so I had to drive alone. After having a quick snack before the half-hour drive, I got back in my car and put my cousin's address into my phone. Halfway through the drive, it started snowing. I got to my cousin's house around 6 o'clock. It was snowing heavily by this point, and I just made it in time to catch everyone starting dinner. I brought all my gifts inside and cheerfully said hey to everyone. I stayed until around 11 o'clock. The rest of my family left a little sooner. I stayed an extra half hour or so just to hang out before leaving myself. By the time I was leaving, the ground had accumulated at least 2 feet of snow, and it wasn't even done snowing. The drive home was nightmarish. The roads were hardly even plowed, and I had to drive under 20 miles per hour on most roads. The roads were completely dead at this point though, most likely because everyone was smart enough to go home before the snow accumulated. Eventually I turned onto a main road that I'm sure would usually be bustling, but at 11:15 on Christmas Eve night, there wasn't a single car or a single light from the store. It was a ghost town. But then I did notice the flashing taillights of one car. It was parked on the side of the road, and the smoke seeping out from its exhaust with the taillights giving it a red tint. As I got closer, I realized there was somebody next to the car waving their hand in the air. I assumed something was wrong and they needed help. So, me being the good Samaritan I am, I pulled up behind the car. When I opened my door, the guy approached me immediately, barely even giving me time to step out. He was an average-sized man, probably 5'10", 180 pounds. He spoke in a very demanding voice, asking me if I know anything about fixing an engine. I told him I didn't know much about cars. The guy responded very quickly to everything I said. He told me it's fine. He went inside of his car for a second, popped open his trunk, came back out and told me to just wait by the trunk for a second. I had no idea what he wanted me to do. I was really confused. He walked over to the front of his car, and I heard him open the hood. I couldn't see anything he was doing since the trunk was blocking my view, and the loud wind of the snowstorm overpowered any small noises he might have been making. I put my hand on the back of the car and leaned my body in anticipation, when suddenly I heard 3 or 4 quick and aggressive footsteps in the snow behind me before I was pushed into the trunk. The man tried to close the trunk on me, but I kicked my feet up in resistance and held it up. I was able to overpower him and kick the trunk open completely. As I took advantage of the few seconds I had to get out of the trunk, I took out my keys. He tried to grab me now, and I dug my house key right into his neck. He fell to his knees and his scream echoed down the deserted street. I was in my car and halfway down the road before he could even get up from his knees. A little further down, I called 911 and reported the guy. I came back in 10 minutes to find blue and red lights illuminating the windows of the deserted stores. The police held him until the ambulance arrived for him. I watched the whole thing, and nothing ever felt better in my life. I got home safely half an hour later and told my family everything. I was still very shaken that Christmas, and this remains possibly the most horrific thing I've ever experienced. It was Christmas Eve, 2009. I was 18 years old, working at CVS. Unfortunately, I got stuck with a closing shift on Christmas Eve, meaning I'd be the only one there until midnight. I was considering quitting over it, but my parents weren't for that. The CVS was 5 miles from my house on a rather quiet corner on a dead-end street. During the day, it would normally be busy, at least busy enough to stay in business, but past 8 o'clock it would be uncommon to see any customers. On Christmas Eve night, I didn't expect to see a single soul past 8 o'clock. My shift started at 4, and it was surprisingly busy for the first few hours. As I expected, past 8 o'clock it really started to die down. The pharmacy closed at 10 tonight for Christmas Eve. Unfortunately, that meant I'd be alone at the register up front for 2 hours. Plus, I had a crush on the girl who was working the pharmacy, and we were talking most of the time the store was empty, so I was upset she was leaving. A whole hour went by, and I only rang up one customer. Come 11 o'clock, I was already getting excited for my shift to end. I'd been the only one in the entire building besides one customer for the past hour, and I was losing my mind. Suddenly, there was a very slight tap on the window. It didn't sound intentional though, it sounded more so like somebody's zipper accidentally scraped against the glass. I turned to look out the window and saw a man out there, heavy coat on, hood over his head, baggy jeans, and black boots. He was staring right at me. A few seconds after he realized that I noticed him, he walked over to the entrance and entered the store. He stared at me as he walked past and down one of the aisles before disappearing behind the shelves. Then, 5 minutes later, the tapping noise began. It sounded like it was coming from one of the aisles. I walked a little to the right behind the counter just to check down the aisle. Nobody was there though. The tapping was so consistent and deliberate, I knew it was the man making the noise. But where was it coming from? I didn't know, but I had a sudden urge to go to the bathroom. Only problem, I wasn't supposed to go to the bathroom when there was a customer in the store and I was alone with them. 10 minutes or so passed and I didn't see the customer, but I would occasionally hear the weird tapping noise coming from one of the aisles. It got to the point that I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped out from behind the counter and called out, "Excuse me?" I started walking around the aisles, looking for this man that walked in. He was nowhere to be seen, but every aisle I entered, I would hear noises coming from the next aisle over. I walked down the candy aisle and heard some of the sleigh bells jingling on the other side of the shelf, like someone was intentionally shaking them. I tried to peek through the tiny holes in the shelves to see if I could see him. I saw something completely unexpected and horrifying instead. I saw a pair of eyes staring back at me through the tiny holes in the shelf. The eyes moved away, and then the tall man entered the aisle I was in. He was making these weird noises like a child or someone who had just escaped a mental asylum. He started laughing and doing this weird tiptoe kind of hopping over to me. It sounds funny, but it was a straight up disturbing scene, and he was approaching so fast that I actually began to fear for my life. I started walking away from him, and he followed me everywhere in his weird hopping. I was back at the front of the store, ready to call my manager or the cops. Then I looked back at him and saw that he was frozen at the end of the first aisle, maybe 20 feet away from me. His goofy, eerily happy face turned to an aggressive, angry-looking stare of malice. I was officially done with this and walked out the front door, and to my horror, the man started charging at me. No more goofy hopping around, he was sprinting at me. I ran outside the store, too afraid to go to my car, because I feared he'd get me before I could lock the door. I ran around back and entered through the back door, which was still unlocked. I didn't know if he was still on my tail or not. I locked the door and hurried to the front of the store, where I locked the front door too. That was when I picked up the phone on the counter and called my manager, who was luckily still awake. I told him I had to leave immediately because somebody crazy was following me. Then I thought I heard something over my conversation. It was coming from inside the store. I put the phone down and realized it was the tapping again, coming from one of the aisles. I was out of that store and in my car within 20 seconds. I never came back. I called my manager when I got back home, and he called the cops. Surprisingly, nothing was stolen, or so I heard from a friend. My manager obviously wasn't too fond of me for leaving his store like that, so I never spoke to him again. I had as normal of a Christmas as possible, given what happened the day before. This experience happened many years ago. I'm 23 now, but I grew up a Scout. I started with the Cub Scouts, then transitioned to the Boy Scouts, and eventually earned the accomplishment of becoming an Eagle Scout. Throughout my years as a Scout, I've been on countless campouts. Many friends came and went as kids quit the Scouts throughout the years, but one friend who stuck it through the whole way with me was Justin. Me and Justin were in the same grade, and we were close friends. At the time of this experience, we were both going to be entering 10th grade, 15 years old. As weird as it sounds, I honestly don't even remember what park we were camping out at. It was just too long ago. As soon as everybody had arrived, Scoutmaster Davis led the group on our hike to the campsite. After setting up our tents and having a quick snack, Scoutmaster Davis led us on another hike as the sun was starting to set. He liked to take us on hikes in the dark, as he thought it taught good directional skills. On the way back, we had to use our flashlights since it was getting too dark. Mr. Davis played a little game to mess with the younger kids, acting like we were lost and they had to find the way back. He had one of the younger kids start to lead the way back, but the kid soon froze in his tracks and looked to Mr. Davis, claiming he heard something. Mr. Davis acted all forest rangery, stepping forward and making a listening motion. Me and Justin laughed out loud, and he shushed us. There was another sound, a very obvious step from a larger creature in the distance. Kids were shining their flashlights all over the place. Mr. Davis assured us it's okay as long as we make a lot of noise to keep any potential predators away.
I gotta admit, it was a bit scary hearing him say that. Mr. Davis led the way back from there on out, but on several occasions, either me, Justin, or some other kid would point out steps coming from behind us. Clearly something was following us. Mr. Davis told us to just stay with the group and not to refrain from making noise. We got back to the campsite where we cooked a couple turkeys, popped open a few cans of corn, and then sat around the campfire where Mr. Davis began telling his famous stories. However, it was interrupted by footsteps circling around the campfire. Scouts started turning around looking into the woods. Even the scoutmasters looked at each other. Assistant Scoutmaster Roberts hopped up, said, "Alright, this'll scare him off," and went for the gun in his tent. He pulled out his rifle and fired a shot into the air. We didn't hear any more footsteps after that. After a whole hour of listening to Mr. Davis's stories, scouts started heading to their tents. Me and Justin were in the same tent, and knowing how early the scoutmasters made us get up, we didn't really joke around for too long. The only sounds now were the crickets and the crackling of the fire outside. I fell asleep quickly, given how exhausted I was from all the hiking, but woke up to Justin nudging me. When my senses came to, I listened, and heard footsteps coming from outside the tent. The campfire was still lit outside, and it created a glow on the tent walls. But it also allowed us to see the shadow outline of what was outside. A person. I whispered, "So what, it's probably someone just going to take a piss." He told me to open the zipper and peek outside. I did what he said, and to my horror, there was some heavy-built man with a sack over his head and a ripped working shirt, very clearly holding a big knife. He was walking around some of the other tents. I zipped the opening back up and told Justin to be quiet. We had no phones or anything, so we couldn't call one of the scoutmasters. All we could do was wait. We couldn't tell if or when the man had left. We just sat there for what felt like hours, waiting, and eventually we fell asleep. We awoke to one of the scoutmasters blowing that stupid wake-up horn. Me and Justin were surprised that we even fell asleep given the situation, but we immediately went to go tell our scoutmasters what we saw. All three of them took our claims very seriously and wanted to make sure we weren't joking. They had no choice but to tell everyone to pack up and call their parents to get a ride home within 3 hours. Now this is the really weird part. Two of the younger kids in the group had their entire bags stolen, which mainly contained their clothing. When the scoutmasters went to investigate around their tents, we were all disturbed to see that there had been tiny holes carved into the tents, big enough for someone to look into. And that's exactly what the holes were for. The scoutmasters reported the incident to the town in which the park resides. It still horrifies me, given how real the situation was for me, that somebody literally followed us into the middle of the woods, spied on two 11 or 12-year-old kids while they slept, stole their clothes, and did whatever else. Thankfully, nobody was hurt, but the incident overall hurt the group, as some parents refused to allow their kids to go on any more campouts. It's sad that some sick people out there can really ruin things for a lot of other people. I'm a 15-year-old Boy Scout from Houston, Texas. My troop flew us out to Denver, Colorado, and we drove to a camp called Camp Alexander, about 45 minutes away from Colorado Springs. Me and 4 other people in our troop were participating in the high adventure program that the camp offers. This basically means that we were doing things like climbing mountains and white water rafting. 4 days into our trip and nothing has happened to us. We set up our tents next to the Arkansas River, as we would be rafting in it the next day. I sleep very poorly in sleeping bags, and had been waking up covered in sweat every night, and that night was no different. I woke up with my face in a puddle of drool and sweating all over my body. I checked my watch and it was around 3:45 a.m. I decided that it would be best for me to step out of my tent for a while and cool down. I put on a shirt and shorts and unzipped my tent. The way my tent was positioned, the opening was facing towards the river, and I immediately noticed that there was someone standing in the middle of the river facing downstream. The water was about waist high and 30 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and whoever was standing in there didn't have a shirt on, so I was extremely confused. After a moment of staring, I realized that I knew this person. He was my friend, who I'll be referring to as Dalton for privacy reasons. I called out for him 2 times before he finally moved. He looked right at me, and then he looked around as if he were processing the situation. He yelled at me, "What the fuck?" He ran back to the shore as fast as he could. I grabbed him a towel and shirt and asked him what the hell he was doing in the middle of the river at 4 in the morning. He answered saying that he didn't know and that he had just woken up to me yelling at him in the middle of the river. I don't know how he got there or if he sleepwalked or something like that, but it was seriously creepy. Nobody believed us in the morning and we just decided to forget about it. Dalton said he had never sleepwalked before or anything like that, so I have no idea why or how he would have gotten into that river. All I know is if I didn't wake up that night and get out of the tents, my friend Dalton might have been dead come morning time. This is going to be a brief, horrifying, 100% true story of mine. I was 13 years old and one of the quieter kids in my Boy Scout troop. I'm not totally a shy person, but I couldn't really relate to any of the kids in my Boy Scout group. We were on our last camp out of the 2008 camping season. It was in October and it was a little chilly, making our many hikes a little more bearable. This was the last camp out of my life, and you'll soon know why. During one of our hikes, I was trailing behind the group as I usually did. I had this sudden urge to pee, so I let the group get a little further ahead and then went behind a tree. I almost had a heart attack as something made a heavy thud on the ground not too far away from me. It didn't sound like a stick or branch falling, it sounded like something putting its foot down into the leaves. I didn't know what to think, all I know is I was freaked out. I ran to catch up to the group. I had no idea what just happened, so I didn't want to tell anybody about it. I'll skip ahead to that night when I was trying to fall asleep. I had my own tent, as did some of the other kids in our tiny little troop, so I tried to go to sleep right away. A strange noise soon interrupted the silence, however. It sounded like breathing coming from a phone or something, and it seemed to be coming from inside my bag. After digging through my bag, I pulled out a big, heavy walkie-talkie. The only thing, I didn't bring or own that. Suddenly, in a deep, almost muffled voice, someone said into the walkie-talkie,
"I'm watching you, kid."
I pressed down the talk button and said, "Who is this?" One of the other kids were clearly pranking me. There was no response, only this sudden static. "Is this Mike?" There was silence. And then,
"I'm right outside your tent."
the fabric of the tent suddenly started pushing in on me as something from outside was pushing into it. I screamed like a baby, and that's when whoever was outside ran into the woods. 2 of my scoutmasters came rushing into the tent. I could barely even breathe, but I somehow managed to show them the walkie-talkie and explain what just happened. They lectured the kids for a few minutes, thinking it was one of them messing with me, but when I calmed down, I stepped in and told them that the voice was way too deep for it to have been any of them. We were all forced to share tents with 2 others that night, and the next day we packed up and moved to a nearby campsite with another Boy Scout troop. I really don't know what they did with the walkie-talkie. I was emotionally disturbed, embarrassed, and I just wanted to go home. I convinced my parents to let me quit Boy Scouts after that incident. It was by far the scariest experience of my life.
In 2010, I went to a summer camp called Camp Ernst that my parents signed me up for. Thankfully, it was with my best friend Keith, so I wouldn't be going there not knowing anyone. The camp was for 2 weeks, and it was the typical setting you'd expect to see in those old summer camp horror movies like Sleepaway Camp. There were 2 big cabins where the girls and boys slept respectively. There was also a big lodge-type building with an activity center, dining hall, and other amenities, and then various other smaller buildings scattered throughout the camp. Keith and I stayed up later than all the other kids because we wanted to play on our Nintendo DS's together. It was reaching the deep hours of the night, past 2 a.m. We were still playing DS together. That's when the door to the cabin opened. Panicking, we both threw our DS's under the pillows and pretended to be asleep. Footsteps moved around the room, from Keith's bed over to my bed. Then the footsteps stopped at my bed, and for a short moment, I felt the ever so soft feeling of someone breathing down my neck. Then the footsteps moved away from my bed and back to the door, before the door shut. I looked over to Keith and said, "That was scary. Especially since whoever that was breathing down my neck." We went back to playing on our DS's. That's when I got a text message on my phone, which read, "Why are you two still up?" Those of us who had cell phones were given a list of phone numbers of the camp counselors who we should call if something were to happen. But that number didn't belong to any of the counselors. Not that I knew of, at least. I texted back saying, "Who is this?" They never responded, though. I told Keith, who didn't have a cell phone, and he was just as freaked out as I was. Obviously, it had to be a counselor. Or so we thought. So we went back to playing on our DS's with the screen brightness all the way down. We both heard the back door to the cabin open. We looked at each other and once again threw our DS's under the pillows. There were no more footsteps, though. Suddenly my phone vibrated. It was another text message from the same number. It said, "It's Counselor Tony. Come outside to the back of the cabin. I have something to say to you." I told Keith, and he said it sounded way too suspicious. Then we both wondered if whoever this Tony person was the one who just opened the back door. I got off the bed and took a few steps to the center of the room, where I could get a view down the hall to the back door. There was no one in sight, so I walked down the hall a little bit. Keith didn't approve. When I got closer to the back screen door of the cabin, I realized there was a little section of wall that caved in, and in that little opening, there was someone hiding. I got a little closer and realized it was not a camp counselor, but some really old, creepy-looking man who was about the same height as me. I ran back to my bed screaming help, waking everybody up. It was at that moment that I heard the back door slam shut. A camp counselor came rushing inside through the front door, and I told everybody what just happened. The counselors went around the whole campsite, searching the perimeter for anyone matching the description I gave. It was a big place surrounded by forest, though. It would be impossible to find someone. What still doesn't make sense to me is how that man got my phone number. My best guess would be he somehow found a list of phone numbers that the counselors had made. But how did he know who I was? I still dream about this experience every now and then. I was just 13. It was my first and last year at a teenager summer camp, which was basically a traditional summer camp for teens aged 13 to 16. The place had some history, though. An old woman who worked on the grounds died from reasons not disclosed to the public. The old woman was one of the former cafeteria workers, Miss Graham. Well, I'll keep this short. It was one of those nights that my brain just hated me and was basically telling me, "You're not getting any sleep tonight." I was rolling from side to side in an uncomfortable cot as everyone else was fast asleep. The full moon made for a bright night. Beams of light literally poured into the room from every window. I was so far from tired that I just felt defeated. I sat up and rubbed my eyes, and when I opened them again, I noticed the light from the window straight across from me was blocked by something. I gasped when I saw what was blocking the light. It was a person's head. It looked like an older woman with a red cap on. What the hell is this lady doing? I thought to myself. It didn't really hit me hard until I realized The woman was looking right at me, like her eyes were locked onto mine. When I saw this, I flipped on my side and pretended to be asleep, or maybe I just wanted to hide under the covers like a baby. I gave it a minute before I dared look back at the window. She was gone. I breathed a sigh of relief. The room seemed darker now, though. Something wasn't right. I looked up to the window right above my cot, and 3 feet away from me, at most, there was the same older woman in a red cap, looking straight down at me. Once again, I covered myself with the blankets and cowered in fear. I don't know how long I stayed like that before I actually fell asleep, because the next thing I remember is going to one of the adults running the camp and telling them about the woman with the red cap. He looked at the 2 women who were also in his office, and they looked back at him with disturbed faces. One of the women said, "That's so creepy, that sounds exactly like Miss Graham." As she said that, my heart skipped a beat. To this day, I don't know if what I saw at that window was a real person, if it was in my head, or if by some off chance, maybe it was Miss Graham out there. I'll never forget the time I went to a sleepaway camp in Pennsylvania. I was a little kid at the time, and I was very shy. Meeting all the other kids at the orientation on the first day was a scary experience for me. I'd rather be home playing Super Nintendo or something. Some of the other kids made friends pretty quickly. I thought I wasn't going to make any friends, but luckily some really outgoing kids started talking to me early on. I can't for the life of me remember his name though, so I'll call him Mike. Mike was a short blonde kid who always wore a Yankees hat. I thought he was the coolest kid at the time, but looking back now, I realize he's probably one of those kids who turned into a punk troublemaker in high school. During the tour of the campgrounds the first day, Mike and I picked up on a lone bunk building that looked like it had been abandoned and unused for years. We asked one of the counselors what happened. He said he had no idea it was his...
Hey,
Hey.
it's been a while. Still being retarded?
Yep. What do you think?
Do you miss talking to a grape for 6 hours every day?
Oh, Jesus, fuck.
Thank God it's Thanksgiving break and I don't have to for a while.
How long are you off?
God knows.
I'm only off today, tomorrow, and Friday, which kind of is fucking AIDS.
This is not what our family had ham over. What?
What the
I don't know.
fuck?
What, Kinley? Let me check. It should be. Yeah, it's locked. I've been playing a lot of Minecraft lately, and in fact, I'm streaming right now, so...
I know, that's why I called you.
Oh,
Hello.
oh.
Wait, is that texture pack just like... Wait, is that like a mod?
It's just a texture pack.
Oh.
A really advanced and weird one.
Yeah, I see. Back, what the? And where am I? Clean craft? Jesus
Maybe.
Christ. I'm in your game right now, bro.
Yeah, I know.
Bruv moment. Why am I a fucking Alex? Who's Caden the King? Is that Caden?
No, I don't really know who he is, but I put my realm code in my stream, so that's probably why. I've had like 6 different people join today.
Oh god. Are they all like middle-aged men?
This one's 15, but they might be 16, 17, 34.
69? No, you never know.
Yeah. Oh, hey, guess what?
What?
I found out my older sister is going to be 69 years old in 2069.
Oh God.
Now, if only her birthday was on April 20th. I'm stupid.
Wait,
I didn't
why?
need to run. Because April is the 4th month, and then 20, so 420. Are you retarded? Oh yeah, that's right. I just clarified.
Yeah. Are you the blue marker person, AIDS, cancer?
Maybe, I don't know.
Fuck is this texture pack, dude?
Here,
I don't even know how much
am I spinning? Is it spinning in a circle?
Yeah, I'm coming to you.
Okay.
I
I really want to play more with you because I don't really have too many people to play with anymore. I literally only talk to Crazy Guy and that retarded Tristan.
Do you still play with that factory?
Sometimes, not really as much as I used to.
That guy is literal cancer.
Yeah, they both are, but it's okay. They're small children. They don't really.
I'm not that cancerous. Sometimes I can be some, like, I don't know, fucking lymphoma or some shit.
Lymphoma? Out of every possible word you could have chose, lymphoma was the first that came to mind. That's...
being eaten by a chainmail armor skeleton or zombie.
You're lucky I don't call the police on that, because I would probably do that.
No, let me down, Dad. Riley, help!
Man, I haven't heard anyone call me Riley in a while.
Why?
Because everyone calls me Foxanium.
Oh yeah.
That's why I tried to make a new account, because Foxanium was starting to make my head go insane. Starting to give me poo brain, someone call it.
Where the fuck are you? You down?
Yeah, I'm grinding skeletons.
Back. What is this? Is this bone? The hell?
No, that's silver log. I'm guessing.
Silver log?
Yeah, no one uses birch, and I thought silver log looked cool because it was like white.
Dude, I'm about to starve to death. Help!
Oh crap! Yo, the second you said that, the other kid starved to death. Oof. Okay, I'm coming up. I'm coming up.
Damn, that kid's. I'm like right above you, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh god.
Come down. Come down.
Come down. Alright. And you let me down. Let me down.
Actually, don't come down. Don't come down with me.
Ah, spider! Oh fuck. He left.
He left. He left. He was like, nah, starve to death, nah.
I'm gonna go right on top of you. Oh god.
Eat the bacon.
What kind of armor is that?
It's copper. Eat the bacon.
Wait, is this like a... Wait, what?
It's pork chop retextured and renamed.
Well, then what's the copper? Like iron armor?
Yeah, copper is iron. And then blood diamond is just diamond. Oh, and look, you get pine cones instead of apples now.
You can eat a pine cone?
And you can get golden pine cones. And just shove them up your forehead. What?
No,
You trying to beat him to death with a stick? Are you mental?
Die.
I have a bow with basically god tier stats. Look at that zombie over there. I just two-shot him. He has more health than you do probably right now.
Where do you live at in this world?
Follow me.
Alright, why is your shield orange? God fuck.
Cause it's copper.
Gopper.
Gopper.
Gopper gang.
Gopper. Oh my god,
I'm my
Gopper gang.
asshole in a gang. I'm little pump. I'm little poop.
I'm little poop. Oh my god.
Why are the trees orange pieces? Why does this kid keep leaving? Oh, I think I see. Ah!
It's okay. Go to that big orange thing.
Yeah. Is that a meat castle?
No, it's a cheese farm. Because there's cheese in the game.
Oh wow, even fucking better.
I added cheese to Minecraft because I have literally nothing else to do with my life.
Jeez. What kind of oak is this? What is this? I'm scared. What is this?
It's just a factory.
No, I'm looking at the door.
Oh.
What the fuck? You didn't change the furnace.
Crap, I'll be right back.
Aight, fam. Seems like nothing in there. Wait. Oh my god, there's cheese.
Dude, guess what?
What?
Squeaky Toy is straight up fat now. They're like a hefty smidgen now.
Whoa. Squeaky Toy be thick, right?
Yeah, Squeaky Toy mega thick now.
He be wilder.
Okay, on second thought, no. No. Stop.
Squeaky Toy be thick.
Bro, there's like 3 cakes just floating in my house. I'm frightened.
Kids? What did you do for Thanksgiving?
For Thanksgiving, I'm not really
I'm gonna eat a
sure.
whole fucking turkey because I'm fat.
I'm gonna pull an amethyst from Steven Universe and just like deep throat the turkey.
Whoa there.
Oh my god, 49 freaking gunpowder? That is outrageous.
Ah, fuck. How do I even play this?
I don't know. Would you like some cheese to make your sadness go away?
Can you eat it?
Yeah, you can eat it. Why wouldn't you?
What is it? Wait, what is it in real life?
It's kelp, but no one likes kelp,
Help!
so I turned it into cheese.
Oh, is that why you
Cheese.
changed it to Chez?
I just threw 32 cheese on your forehead.
What even is this? Jesus. It gives you, like, no hunger.
It literally gives you half a hunger. But you can eat it really quick, so that's a plus. It's like a really bad version of cocaine.
Why is this wooden hatchet really fast?
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just running in circles.
Don't let me down like that. I'm gonna mail you. Wait, I'm gonna mail a box to Africa full of water.
Wait. Wait, what? You know, on second thought, don't answer that. Don't answer that.
I'm gonna mail a box full of water to Africa.
Afric. There's just some kid. There's just some kid over there named Afric because his parents don't like him, and he's just like, ooh yay, what they're.
There's this meme where it's like, boys, I have nothing to play, and girls, I have nothing to wear. Africa, we have nothing to drink.
Oh God, that's really sad.
Oh Jesus.
See, this is why I wanted to play with you again, because I haven't literally laughed that much lately, and it's making me sad. And Caden was diagnosed with the big. Caden was diagnosed with the big gay recently, so we don't really talk anymore. In fact, I haven't spoken to him in like 2 months.
Wait, hasn't he always had the big gay?
No, he used to have the small gay back then, but now
he had the minor gay.
Yeah, the minor gay. That's right. He had the minor gay. Because when you're a minor, you can't really have too much gay without it being illegal. So now they were just like, you know what, screw it. If the kid gets raped, he gets raped. Whatever. He has the big gay.
Jesus, fuck.
Yeah, it turns out Caden is an absolutely horrible and atrocious person.
Yeah, you fucking... Now you think that?
Yeah, I do.
Hey, remember that one world that you got, like, really pissed at me? Because, wait, what did I do? What did we do again? I forgot. Remember that one world?
Oh, yeah, you killed...
Yeah.
The one where we were in the ravine and you just killed me accidentally and I had a stroke and thought you meant it on purpose and I was like, no. No.
Okay, I'll stop.
What the heck? What was that?
Hey, my autistic hamster died.
I still don't know what a hamster is, so I don't understand this.
I'm kidding, he didn't die. You search up a rat. No, I'm just kidding. Search up hamster. A picture of a chinchilla will pop up. And,
hold on. I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Search up hamster, and you'll fucking see what a damn hamster is. But you're talking down like that, down like that. Do you like sunflower seeds?
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Llama, we have a bit of an issue.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of hammers.
Stop!
I typed in hamster. Oh no, I typed in hamster or hammer. Crap. How do you spell hamster?
Hamster. How it sounds. What popped up? Let me see.
These look like. Just a car.
Stop!
Ew, what is that? What is that? Oh, sweet Jesus, no, what is that? What is...
Molly, come upstairs. I decorated your bedroom. Or this chest room.
Okay, hold on.
Dude,
Dude, you can't just open everything. No. My house is made out of trapdoors. You can't just open up my house.
What?
My whole house is made of trapdoors. The walls are trapdoors. You can just flip open the wall.
Jesus.
The cobblestone is also trapdoors. The door.
Look at the guy.
You put cheese in his hand. Gave him some cheese. Just put some cheese in his mouth. Oh, and is it just me, or is the sugar cane like really dark for some reason?
Yeah, it is.
I feel like the cheese is trying to pull an Ariana Grande and trying to turn itself black slowly.
I want to build my own dirt hut.
Okay, well, here, follow me.
Can you make a cheese block, please?
Yeah, you can. Me and my friends made a cheese castle recently. Well, it was mainly me.
You know, Sunday, and this other, I forgot his name, but they did a Feed the Beast Let's Play, and they made a meat castle.
Oh yeah, isn't his name like Crater?
No, it wasn't him. I wasn't him. It was some other.
I forgot his name.
Dude, it pissed me off. I know. Oh, what is it? I don't know. But he was like, I don't know. He was like fat, kind of, and he knew like everything about Feed the Beast.
Maybe he chose an architect?
Whoa! Wait, what's that giant orange tower? Or, I mean, red? I'm colorblind.
That's a cheese farm. Here, let me show you how it works.
Yeah. Wait, so...
Okay, so you go around here and you break all the cheese right here. And then all the cheese floats up to the top. The cheese just slowly...
there's cheese everywhere!
Yeah, the cheese just slowly floats up to the top. Or you can do what you just did.
You can build cheese? I'm stealing all the cheese.
Go ahead. Not the ones on the bottom, though. But yeah, you can make a cheese castle. You have to smelt it first to make it, like, actual cheese.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna make a cheese house, alright?
Okay, I want to make a cheese castle.
I'm literally gonna build a cheese house. Well, I need a smelter. Okay.
Okay, I need a pickaxe with silk touch.
What do I smelt it with? What do I smelt?
You can actually smelt cheese with cheese.
What? I'm fucking confused.
Yeah, you can smelt cheese with cheese.
Wait, what is called chez and what is called cheese?
Yeah, chez is the unsmelted cheese. It's just, I don't know. Why is my sister still watching the muffin memes? Like,
I'm not. It's for freaking TikTok, Riley.
It's for freaking
Didn't TikTok like kill itself recently?
No, TikTok's still alive and thriving. In fact, it's actually doing better than it has ever done. It's on par with the more people use TikTok than Minecraft.
I'm cooking cheese and it's going nowhere.
It's going into this chest, you buffoon.
Oh, I'm retarded. Sorry, I didn't mean to mention.
Do you not see the hoppers going there?
Yeah, I see them.
Also, you might want to use the ovens instead, because they actually are supposed to cook cheese.
Alright, how am I,
Ovens cook cheese twice as fast. Also, you can just open up the floor.
how many goddamn trapdoors? Yeah, we're stuck. Cheese party!
I'm so happy I was like that.
Riley, help. What is this place?
I don't know. It was supposed to be an oven, but I messed it up, and now it's not.
It was supposed to be an oven? Wow.
Yeah, you're supposed to go down there and just choke to death.
I'm gonna make a cheese cube.
Just make a cheese castle. I want to make a giant cheese house or
I'm
castle.
gonna make a cheese house, alright?
Here, you can
Alright,
build
I
it
need
up
a
here.
lot
You
of
can build it up
cheese.
here on this mountain, where it can just sit up here and just. You can just let it sit here and just watch over everything. You can watch over my little town.
I'm building a frick ton of cheese blocks so I can have.
Whoa!
Jesus Christ!
Whoa! My dogs are still just as retarded as always.
Yeah, they go. Yeah.
Oh, be right back. My pee pee poo poo here.
One time I went skitscat and my nose fell out. Can I eat the uncooked cheese?
You can't eat the uncooked cheese. I tried to coat it in and replace it with like raw chicken, but it didn't work. Because you can't really turn raw chicken into cheese. It doesn't work that way.
I should make a chicken block. Is this on hard mode? It's really. I have to eat like every second.
Yeah, I'll put it back. Yeah, I'll put it on easy.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I got a stack of bread in here. You want that?
Yeah, sure. It's probably better than cheese, I'm guessing. Let me down. Ooh, what's up here?
That's my enchantment room.
Oh, this actually works? Does it do level 30?
Almost. I don't have enough wood yet. Wait, yes I do.
Why the hell are the floors trapdoors?
Because they're thin, and I like thin.
Yeah, I'm not thin. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, you're
Hey, get ready, bread.
Square up. What?
I need some bread. I need some bread. Bread.
I gave you some bread.
What is karma point? Can I eat that?
It can't eat freaking emeralds. That's not, that's,
Yeah, oh my god.
that's an emerald, you buffoon. You absolute egg.
Riley, look at the armor guy.
Cool. Hey, here's half the stack of chinez.
Dang, I accidentally opened your house.
What? I accidentally opened a house.
Oh god, I'm
What's
sorry.
inside the house? Just a house
this is
unboxing.
Look, I'm your creepy neighbor.
Oh, hey, fun fact, you can just, like, kind of,
Oh jeez. Wait, why do you even need a door?
because you can't go back out, so you need a door. Plus, I don't want to walk through the wall every 3 seconds.
I have so much ches. I can make 18 ches blocks.
That's really not much. My cheese castle, I spent, like, 12 days working on it, and I had a total of 4 double chests of cheese blocks.
And we talking down now, yeah. What?
Yeah.
How?
I don't know. So come up here. Come up. Okay.
We talking down.
I just put like a little tower thingy of wood on the mountain that I want you to build. Okay.
You have any what's it called?
Meth? Probably.
Burp. I went burp. Why do you have 4? Jesus.
Because this is like a hotel kind of. People come and go.
I need some coal to smelt
That's
my
why
cheese.
that's why the beds are white, because they come and go.
What? Wait. Oh. Jesus Christ. Stop.
Oh Jesus. Oh God. Why?
Jesus fuck. And we fucking down.
That was the worst joke I've ever made ever.
wish that day, babu. So whenever my cousins come, which is probably soon, I'm gonna have to leave. I don't know when they're coming because they're always late for fucking everything. What the hell is
Bast chip. It's Bast chip. Oh, I know that guy. Hey, I got your stuff.
Wait, what? He died here or something?
Yeah, they got shot in the forehead by a skeleton.
Jesus fuck. Okay, phew. Yee, lol. This is brown crap.
The brown crap? What do you mean brown crap?
What is basalt?
Basalt? It's like, you know, granite, diorite, and andesite.
Yeah.
I think those three textures are absolute garbage. So I turned them into marble, basalt, and limestone. So now they look good.
And I'm so fat I can't run. Ah!
You're just eating cheese instead of fighting.
Well, I couldn't run.
Oh! I guess we're even now.
Nigga. Peter on easy. Back. Wait, where's your... Ah, fuck. And we talking down like that. Ow! Where do you live?
I don't know where I live. You're here.
-250. Okay. Jesus. -250? 200? And we talking down like that. Down like that. Oh.
He asked me what I was working Wednesday.
Stop. Yeah, don't ask.
I don't want to.
Talking down. Oh, I see your meat castle.
My meat castle. Wait, what?
Why is there? You should have 2 little meat castles next to the Ches farm. You gonna call Ghostbusters? But it didn't get you. My neck went Kit Kat.
My neck went Kit Kat.
My neck went skit scat. Hey, I went on your stream like way earlier, and I saw that you were listening to 20 Gun Guylets.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Not you. Other guy.
What happened? Wait, so whenever you die, all your stuff just goes in the chest, or did you do that?
No, I did that.
Why do I have a copper hoe? I don't want a copper hoe. It's bad for you. Don't round, one side, don't round, don't round, one side, don't round. Where are you gonna bring him? To hell or something?
No, back to our little mine shaft thing. Do you know the place that I brought you originally?
Oh yeah, you saved me. Works so fucking much like this.
I don't know. But no, yeah.
Yeah. Alright, just a second. I'm trying to focus on something.
Yeah, but I mean,
Wait, where's the go my cheese? Actually, I like the orange sauce.
she's great. They're planning on doing, I mean, it'd be the same hours to do the 4:30, but, I plan on doing,
Should I even get it?
12:30 to 2:30.
They're pretty fun to make.
She has that on there.
They're fun to make, but hard to make.
And I just thought I'd go give them a message that they have for the city.
Then
And I
again,
just got a card and let them share it. That was so smart.
Is Kelly really listening to Let It Go?
Of course she is.
Jesus. I'm gonna go skit scat. I'll be back.
You know, that song was deleted from existence a while back, but Frozen 2 came out and they were like, let's remake it. Boom.
And they did that. They did so much. They had so much fun.
I wish everyone in that movie just died. You know, do I want my house like
Not the lady up front, but she recognized when she was really young.
this looks pretty nice.
I think so. And Natalie was jumping up and down. She was so excited. And I told the lady, I was like, well,
There's a village.
I don't know about Pines.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be hard because I'm going to stick with questions.
Wait.
It's going to be hard and let them share questions. They're just going to take time to be anyway.
No, I don't.
Oh, it's really cancer. My sister's.
I'm sure it is.
That's what she does. Exactly what she does.
Yeah, and I'm not going to let them just have hearts and walk around like that.
Sorry, Heather. What do I want for my house?
Oh, yeah. And they did like, oh my goodness, tell me how many puzzles did y'all do? 6? I think it was
Raleigh.
6 troll puzzles.
Yeah, what's up?
Does your family ever go to like Raleigh or anyone near there for anything?
It's extremely rare, but yeah, we do sometimes.
Ew. Wait, why is it really rare?
Because we don't do anything and there's no real point in going there.
Oh, yeah.
And they get to do we did that for a little bit. Like,
Hello, Joey. Would you like to consume me? No, thanks.
No, thank you. I will pass.
Pardon me, Joey. I hate to be a burden on this conversation you're having, but would you care to take a bite out of my scrumptious dough? I am perfect for optimal consumptionalization of my flesh. My body is perfectly suited for any consumption of any kind. If you have any urges, please proceed. I will not care. It's like the most annoying way to just exist.
What?
Just being that Joey kid or whatever.
Sorry, Heather.
Sorry, Feather.
A community ass.
Oh! Whoa. We're trying to keep this a PG-13.
Oh, wait. Are you? Wait. You're just playing. You're gonna get copyrighted.
No crap. That's the joke. I've gotten copyrighted for everything. You know that annoying Yoink series I have? That whole thing is copyrighted. All of that stuff is stolen, and so is the garbage and meme content people make.
Lois.
Christ. Lois. I'm a fire alarm. Oh, Jesus Christ. I hate Family Guy so much. Family Guy makes me so angry. Hey, Lois. Lois, look, I'm on a tightrope. I'm on a tightrope. He just beat really loud.
Should I make this, what's it called? Should I make this bath salt out of my wall, or for walls of my house?
Sure, it looks pretty good.
I think it looks pretty cool, yeah.
It does. It's a lot better than diorite, which is what it's pre-textured.
It's a lot better than diorite, you said?
Basalt is actually diorite.
Whoa.
I know, right? Hey, Joey, yeet me, but I want to die.
Sorry, but you look like...
Kinley, how many times are you going to play that? That's like the 30th goddamn time. My brain is about to explode. I'm trying to make a TikTok. For me. Well, you mock me all the time, so why not?
I won't mock you.
I do mock you. I don't mock you. Oh man, that's really not nice, but whatever. You so.
I didn't feel it. I'm in pain. I'm a percent trapped in my brain.
Eat me, Joey. Eat me. Hey, Joey, bet you won't eat me. Bet.
Who's Joey?
I don't know, some guy who wants to die or something, maybe. I don't know. Ow! Hit me with a troll doll.
It's soft, so you shouldn't even be crying about it.
But I'm not crying about it.
Well, you're scared.
A troll doll?
Ow. That didn't really hurt, but startled me.
Stop mocking me and being mean.
Hey, y'all please stop. We're having so much going on. Don't need y'all to argue.
I'm trying to make a TikTok.
Okay.
I'm trying to make it.
Riley, Joel, come here. Stay right here.
Alright.
I think there's enough space in this house for everyone to have breaks from each other if they need them, okay? So right now, maybe y'all need to take a break from each other. But I'm gonna tell you what, quit mocking her, leave her alone. We don't need any more stress on her, please. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Who is this?
Hellslayer.
2030. Well, now we got 5 people in the game. That's cool. I mean, this is what I always wanted, so I'm not complaining. I wonder how many of these people are subscribed to me. Probably, like, none of them.
Whenever you hit 69 subscribers, you should just quit YouTube.
Oh my god, yeah. I'm gonna do milestones for my channel, but in the reverse order. Or in the wrong order. Like, for like, my 10th subscribers, I'm just gonna be like, thank you guys so much for 1 billion subscribers. Oh my god. Or maybe... Or I'm gonna do milestones only whenever I hit 69 or 420 digits in my thingy. Like if it says 420, if I have 420 subscribers, 69 subscribers, or like 69, 420, or the absolute god tier one that I want to get like PewDiePie status one day. Like.
Oh wait, you know the game Terraria?
I don't want 100 million subscribers. That's just absurd. But like.
Dude, PewDiePie started playing Terraria.
Oh. That's cool. I mean, I don't really care, though.
Yeah, I only watch him for Minecraft series.
I don't even watch PewDiePie, period. I don't find his content very funny anymore.
Yeah, same. I only watch him for the Minecraft.
I don't even watch that anymore.
Well, yeah, it's like basically over. I mean,
he beat the game. He doesn't really do anything else. Yeah.
After he hit 100 million, we just, like, forgot about it.
Yeah. Once T-Series beat him, we were like, oh, okay, well.
Is T-Series even gonna get a YouTube, like, a custom award?
They did. It was just their logo encased in, like, glass or something. It was really crappy. But that's good, because they deserve it. They don't deserve anything.
How did they get that many? Like, honestly.
India has almost 2 billion people in it.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
And they're and they have every song in Bollywood.
But like half the population doesn't even have an internet or a phone.
I mean, yeah, for God's sake, like 200 of them stick to it like a motorcycle. Have you seen that video where like there's like 100 Indians all on top of each other, just like stuck together with like some like that Elmer's glue? They're just like stuck to each other with Elmer's glue on a motorcycle, and it looks like a giant like bear.
Oh god.
That is one of my favorite clips of all time. Just like 100 Indians, just all on top of a motorcycle. It's
Hello,
magic.
you guys have PlayStation? There's this video where like this Asian, like fake Asian's voice tries to, they called Best Buy, or he calls Best Buy, and he asked them for like he kept asking them, hey, you guys have PlayStation?
Oh, I would like a PlayStation.
It's literally the funniest video on YouTube. I can say right now, it is so funny. Hey, you guys have PlayStation?
Oh, Hellslayer's here. Okay.
Have a trap in my mind. Isn't a health player like autistic?
Maybe.
Come with the gout.
I got gout from head to toe. It's inside and outside of my earlobes.
Like, said, do you want to donate some trees?
Cancer. Poor. Mama, that's abuse.
Oh, you get in the house, but you make me much. Come look at my house. It's cancer. I guess. ER. Sorry, Heather. E.
Here, you want a diamond pickaxe?
No, I'm not earn it.
Okay, there's a diamond pickaxe.
Okay. Wait, what?
Yeah, blood diamond.
Okay.
Okay.
This texture pack is way too confusing.
That's the
literally
point. It was meant to be confusing because I felt really bored with how Minecraft was, and I wanted to like get a revamp of it, and like I missed that feeling from whenever I first started playing, like, holy crap, everything is so new and cool. I don't know what anything does or how anything works. I missed that feeling, and I wanted to relive it, and, well, I did.
Dang, diggity, dang, dang. Chest thing. Whoa, there's a chest thing? Wow.
Ding, bang, diggity, dang.
He just leaves.
He took some cobblestone, okay?
Freaks him out. We'll do that. Don't move at all.
It's so dark in my house. I'm so depressed. I can't even. Oh my goodness. Why you gonna let me down like that? Down like that?
I'm kind of brain dead right now. What am I trying to do? That's what I was trying to do. Okay.
Oh, why you gonna let me down like that?
Dude, what is happening to your mic? Or your...
Me? I'm humming. Is that why?
Oh, yeah. It sounds like you're, like, slapping a microphone with your forehead. Ethan,
I have the big cancer.
I need to get some blue eyes.
And he talking down like that. Down like that.
Down like that. Oh.
Oh, well.
Oh, whoa, whoa. Wait, I can make an ice farm. Big brain, big brain, big brain. I don't need to go get ice. I can just make ice.
Wait, let me reload the clip. Getting this in like getting this in like what they do. Even if it's in what they do.
I can make an ice farm.
Block of coal, 50 cents. What?
Yeah, I added a currency system.
Makeshift furnace? Jesus.
Yeah, some things aren't really that good and thought through. Some things I was just like, okay, how can we change this? Oh, I know. Absolutely none. Just don't.
I don't want that. I want it like that. Yeah. I just made 12 furnaces because I have no life.
That's okay.
Oh, wow.
Are you okay? Jesus.
Come in my asshole. I made a pee-pee. Are you happy?
No, not really.
Why you gonna make me down like that? Come in my asshole.
Wait, whoa. Whoa. Maybe.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Ow, die, you whore.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Maybe.
Come in my asshole. Big snow.
Akbar. What are you saying? Okay, you know what? Nah, I'm gonna go get some ice the proper way.
You're gonna go eat?
No, get ice the proper way.
Why?
I don't know, tuberculosis kills like 2 people every year.
Come here, myself. Can you make? Oh, you can make bread and stairs. Oh, this will work.
Yeah, you can. Of course you can. I'm big brain. Of course I would add that.
I'm retarded. How do you make that? What are you talking about?
Bro, there's just a rotting corpse over here with a bunch of loot. Don't mind if I do. Was this guy really trying to build with pumpkins? He tried to make a house out of pumpkins.
What?
My man tried to make a house out of freaking pumpkins. Like, legitimately. 17?
Garbage.
This guy had 17 copper doors.
I'm calling the cops.
Whoa. Is that a weed? I'm calling the police. Is that a police? I'm calling the weed. 420. What are you in fact smoking? Oh, whoa.
Come on, Miss. Oh, no one. Japan. Come on, Miss. Oh. Biggest now, based on one and gave it a drip. Said I think got them on.
No one. Sonic. New. Ew. This is a nasty village. This village is nasty.
Miss Oh. Biggest now, based on one and gave it a drip. I said I think got them on. I don't got it. They ran a million. Taking a drive and we consider them all.
Why did I just why do I have 5 potatoes on me?
I don't know.
Ungity bungity, ungity bungity. Hey, since you don't have to talk to Miss Grapefruit all day, what is a school like? Is it like normal or does it
I
suck?
just bully kids all day. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a bully or get bullied world out there. You either bully or get
There
bullied.
were 4 fights last week, and yeah, I was not part of one of them.
You were part of every one of them. You
Yes,
birthed the people that created the fights. What did I just say? You know what? Okay. Sure.
I went, oh. You made me down
Oh, bling bling boy. It's bling bling boy. Bling bling. Bling bling boy. You've been smited down, bling bling boy.
I've been smited. Here, do /smite. It will give you
That's not a thing. Okay. You know, yeah, sure. /smite. Bro, stop teleporting. Just. Oh, no. Llama, no.
I can't say, oh, look.
No, you can't. I forbid you.
That's illegal.
Bro, he teleported into the water.
Huh?
My man teleported into the lake and then drowned.
Who did? Cancer Soren?
There we go. I got it in the pool. I got it in the pool.
Remember that one world that we had on Java Edition? I think I still have it, but remember where we had those really tiny houses in a cave that were just one by one?
We literally lived in like the cracks of a wall.
I know, right?
We literally lived in like the tiny crevices. No one, Llama and Riley, slaps their faces into the freaking floor. 9412 0. Bruh, my boy dropped a potato on me. Oh, a spade with fortune too. That's really useful, probably. On the road again. On the road again. Here I go on the road again. On the road again. On the road again. On the road again. Boom! The zombie just melted.
Whoa!
I got 200 pearls. Hey, would you be mad if I went into a copy of this world, put it in creative, found the end city, and the like found everything, and then just went to it back in this world? It's like cheating without cheating, but still cheating.
Wait, what?
I was wondering if you think it's okay if I go into a copy of this world that's in creative, find like the stronghold, the end cities, all that crap, and once I kill the ender dragon, I can just like go beep boop bop boom pow and get
Oh,
the
no!
Alright, I'll do that later then.
Yeah. Here, let me just build my house and then we can...
No, I'm not actually doing it right now.
Oh.
Dude, there's like 6 people in the world. Okay, there's 4, but still, there's like 6 people in the world.
Oh. If you ever want to try any, like, food, you should get these things. They're called shapes. And get the pizza flavored. Have you ever had goldfish flavored, or pizza flavored goldfish?
Are those like the little like pretzel bite roll thingies with like the goop inside of them?
No.
Oh. Okay, well good, because I ate one of those a while ago and I did not like it. I gagged like 8 times before just like swallowing it.
Uh-oh, that's an L.
No, that's not an L. That's a...
That's a mega L.
I don't know what that is. It's not an L though.
That's a dang, diggity dang.
That's a ding dang wingity wing wang ching chang wing wang wing wang. What? That's a ooh ee ooh ah ting tang walla walla wing wang bang bang. It's every syllable in the alphabet except for what we're actually trying to describe.
How come whenever I jump, my body, like, drills forward?
It's the new update they added for 1.13. It makes you bouncier. It looks like your camera's like going forward a little bit. It's really weird. It fixes it a little bit if you turn bobbing off, but still, it's not really good. Oh my god, is that a death forest over there?
Chinese. Hey, I'm going to LA this Christmas. Well, after Christmas, actually.
Cool. I don't really care because that place kind of sucks. Yo. Yo, this is creepy.
It don't suck.
It does. Oh, okay, whatever. Yo, this is so freaking creepy. The whole forest is just dead. Just dead. The whole forest is just dead. I've gone almost 2,500-ish maybe blocks away from our house, and like there's still no ocean anywhere. Typically in worlds, I'm trying to find land, there's so much ocean, but now it's the opposite, and I'm kind of sad.
Yeah, that is kind of weird.
I want to type in chat who likes Fortnite, and I want to see everyone just start screaming, we like Fortnite, we like Fortnite. I get it, it's shameful, but whatever. I can't wait for the day to come where, like, it's like 2030, you're, like, someone in your family dies, and it's sad, and everyone's sad. And then there's that retarded 14th cousin over there in the corner taking the L on them.
Chat.
It got autocorrected, but what it said was my mom bought me meth for Crackmas. Okay, I found an ocean, and there's a bunch of cheese everywhere. But that's not what I'm here for.
Oh, Chez? I love cheese. I have Mexican.
What?
It's me, Mexican boy.
It's a me, Mexicana.
It's me, Mickey Mouse. Do you want to come inside
It's
my
me,
pants?
Mexican man. I like the word Mexican because it sounds like the word Mexican.
One time in 6th grade, I was forced to say sex at a dance.
Take a look. It's in a book. Crack.
I don't know why I don't know, they're fucking party.
Y'all mind if I eat the entire Panda Express? Like the entire food chain?
I like Yoink.
Do you know who Cardi E is?
My niggas all bad. My niggas all bad. My niggas all bad. I'm from the Bronx. I got shot.
The Bronx? What is the Bronx? Like the bronchial
Place in LA.
tubes?
I mean, fucking New York.
New York, New York, New York.
New York, right? Hey, have you seen that video? It's called like $1 street food around the world.
No. What kind of crap do you watch?
I don't know. It's a variety.
Small brain.
Yeah, I watched some Small Brain. I watched a Small Brain documentary about Gaiden yesterday.
Gaiden? Like,
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
neat.
It cost $69 though, because he's.
Oh, God,
he
no.
really wants money.
Did you watch the Steven Universe movie, by the way? I never got to ask you.
Did I watch it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, did you like it?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's actually a really cool spot. I might move here. Probably not, but still. This is cool.
I'm not allowing you to move.
This is actually a really cool spot. It's like a cave, kind of, in the wall. This is really cool. This is dope as heck.
Well, take a screenshot of the chords if you want to look.
Yeah, I did. It's negative 830, 1475-ish.
What?
Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay. What? Meth.exe, bro.
Dang, dang, diggity dang. Oh my god. I gotta get that out of my head.
Just gonna get some apples over here.
Wake up in the morning. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Oh my god, I need 16. Are you sacking me right now?
No, I don't think I am. Wake up in the morning, I have ham on my mind. Give me ham. Inject me with melted ham.
Wake up in the morning. I got moaning on my moaning.
What?
AK moaning, 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 moaning.
I got moaning on my moaning,
I get cancer in my day.
I have cancer in my mind. It's called dementia.
I have
an AK-47 on my AK-47. Wake up in the AK-47. Got AK-47 on my AK-47. Wake up in the ham. Got ham on my ham.
Ham!
But just don't steam hams. That's not good. Just kidding.
Oh, whoa. That is terrible. Dang, dang, diggity, dang, dang. I really gotta get that out of my head, don't I?
Hey, you better not plarp that guy's bees. Don't plarp his bees. What did you not understand about that sentence? That was very simple. Like, that was a very simple
Yeah, I know it's
thing. Wake up in the AK-47. Got AK-47 on my mind.
A-gay.
That's
Oh,
one.
well,
That's a
47,
gay 47.
Whack 11.
Just a rainbow.
Fuck, cock and mine. I don't let him know that I got murder on my mind. I got murder on. By both perfection will become an animal.
Video games make people violent, when in reality it's just the garbage rap songs people listen to about murder and rape and drugs.
Nigga, oh my god. I like killing police.
The video games cause violence. Well, yeah, GTA probably does, and Fortnite probably does, but like Minecraft,
Dude, do you miss playing GTA?
not really. It got really boring really quick.
Yeah, because you had no money.
No, it's not even having money that's the problem. I had plenty of money. I just got bored because all you get to do is run people over, buy cars, run people over, decorate the cars.
So I kept running you over.
Run
Remember?
people over.
My cousins are so fucking late that by the time they get here, the universe is dead. Yeah, and then I go, oh, whoa, whoa. 'Cause I didn't want them to die.
I'm gonna put it back in peaceful. I don't like this. This is getting annoying. I run out of
Is it
food
in
instantly. It was in easy, but I'm putting it in peaceful now.
Yeah.
I've got ham on my mind.
I need a number 2, a number 2, a number AK-47.
I need a number 2, a number 2, a number 2. I need the letter 2, the letter 2, the letter 2.
It's what's that show called? Blue's Clues? It's lemonade! Dang, dang, diggity, dang, 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 diggity,
Ding
dang,
dang
dang.
chicken wing.
How did I use all that wood? Oh yeah, I made 8 billion chests. AK-47 is not the real. Where's everyone living in this world? They're just gonna leave in like a day or two, like Ira.
Hmm.
Hey, what's that new house? Is someone building that house? Or?
Yeah.
It's pretty AIDS.
Yeah. It's just a bunch of trap doors.
No, not your house. That house across the street.
Well, all I'm gonna do is, and I'm going to, fold this other little laundry right quick.
No. No.
Fucking shit. Oh god, I should stop.
My retarded cousin's name is Caden. I want out.
Riley, you just cursed them for life.
You can't leave you.
Are you Skeppy? You just type so fast?
No? Maybe?
I got Nagrid on my mind.
I got Nick on my mind.
Oh, I got Nagrid on my mind. I got Nagrid on my mind. I don't let him do it. I got Nagrid on my mind. I got Nagrid on my mind. My reservation. Bitch, I'm an animal. That is the same. Driller boy. Driller boy. Except I'm from Rocky. I'm from New York, so I'm Rocky. My house is a little cramped, but it'll do. It'll do. That's the thing. I got that body and my shirt bias for this.
Niggery.
Add 2 to the game. Downhill.
Anyone.
Rally.
What's Konnichiwa in Spanish? I'm sorry.
You are so dumb. Christ.
What you
What is
What's Konnichiwa in Spanish? I'm sorry.
Stop.
What's Konnichiwa?
Yeah, I'm not gonna ask you again.
Oh, whoa. I wake up every morning and I got what's konnichiwa in Spanish on my mind. I need a gay person to read my asshole.
Okay, what? Okay, you know what? I'm genuinely starting to believe slowly every day. Or not every day. Every time I talk to you, I'm just slowly but surely just I don't know how to explain it. I just feel like you're slowly getting more and more stupid.
Yeah. I think that's it. No, because when I first met you, I didn't say, like, you know, the crap that I say now. Because, you know, we didn't know each other really at all.
Yeah, and you were
But
a lot
now I'm
smarter
just
back
used
then.
to it. I just say, ah!
You were a lot smarter
got
back
it.
then too. Llama, don't finish that. Don't you dare finish that sentence. Llama. Thank you.
It's in my garage, dude. What are you talking about? What, baby? Wait, am I still paying for this realm?
No. The
Remember
realm you
I
paid
bought
for died like 2 years ago or something.
Oh yeah. Wait, who's paying for it now? No one?
Me,
Jesus?
I think. I don't know.
God.
Jesus. Nigward. He's just in the corner just like congratulating everyone. He's so proud of us.
You gonna do this game? Alright.
Already got over this.
Silent. guys, just look at the FaceTime thing. You're gonna laugh so hard, right?
What is that? It looks like Lois and Sonic mixed together and then put in the deep fryer.
Jesus crack.
Did someone deep fry Lois and Sonic? Stop.
I just got disconnected. Oh, I blocked Friday? What? I have cancer. Oh, down like that, hey, down like that. Alright, I'm gonna make a hoe. Cause I have calling a motherfucking bone. My nigga, did you just? My nigga, did you just came?
That's not even a proper noun, but yeah, whatever.
I know, it didn't even spell it right. Nigga, where did you just? Girder, oh my god. I'm a big kid now.
Hamburger.
Burger.
I remember whenever you first showed me that clip and I almost died.
Who, me? I showed you that?
Yeah, I think so. That seems like the retarded crap you'd show me.
Huh?
Ham, burger. Ham, burger herd.
Ah, I found emeralds, bet.
Cool.
Yeah, what are you talking? Wait, are these emeralds?
Yeah.
What is copper? I just got finessed real hard.
By what?
I thought this was emeralds, but I found copper.
Oof.
Kill me.
Okay.
I literally only neck, gur.
Oh my god. I should make that. I should really make that. EEAA Sports. It's in the game.
It's just kind of weird now. I have cancer everywhere.
I wonder what my base looks like right now. I wonder what's going on.
Oh, my nigga, where did you just came down there? Start a fourth life before he fucking died, nigga. All you care about is rapping and stunting and being ugly and then sucking continue.
What are you singing? Well, never mind. That's not singing. That's
It's what's it called? It's like that racist song, or like I'm not racist. I don't know why that's still in
egg
my head,
people.
but it is.
They might eat your shoes.
Stop.
Oh my god! Remember?
I'm gonna take that to black people. One big family with a really big bucket of KFC. Black people.
Egg people, they might eat your shoes. They might eat your shoes or become your shoes. They just freaking morph into a pair of shoes. Not even good shoes, like
White
the really
people,
crappy
we
shoes.
are racist. We are very racist. White people.
We eat ham and cheese because we have.
White people. One big white family with a really big bucket of Thanksgiving tea. Black with
What?
Bojangles tea.
James
With
Charles tea.
a really big jug of Bojangles tea. Black people.
Yo, that's actually perfectly on point.
White people, one big family with a really big jug of Bojangles tea. Black white people.
Black
I
white
keep saying
people.
that. White people, one big family with a really big jug of Bojangles tea. White people.
We should make that a song. That's brilliant.
White
That is perfectly on point.
Wait, that's actually correct though.
It genuinely is though. That's
Dude,
what
I
we
love
do.
Bojangles tea.
Same. I will just absorb that stuff.
Yeah, I don't absorb many things, but you know, sometimes you just have to do the deal. Wait.
Egg people.
Whoa. Africa. We have nothing to. I'm gonna send a box full of water to Africa.
I was trying to mine with bread. Because I can't see.
Wait, isn't that how you mine? Wait. Oh, fact.
What?
My phone's got 3%.
Uh-oh. Spaghetto.
I'm finna go piss in the potty.
Okay. Why did you have to say it like that? With a really big jug of Bojangles tea. Green people. They might eat your shoes. Oh god. My poor shoes. Thick people, they'll eat anything because they are everything. What?
BRB. I'm gonna leave for a second, the world, so I don't die.
Okay.
Alright, I'll be back.
With a really big jug of egg tea. Egg people. Egg.
Hey, you want half of one of these to try there? Huh? Yeah. Find out. Perfect for preparing real life adventure. It's a little like surfing coffee, but
first week working there. All he knew was that it hadn't been used for years. On the last night of camp, we were in our bunks. Everyone was getting ready to go to sleep. Mike came up to me and whispered something in my ear. He wanted to sneak over to that abandoned bunk just for the fun of it and see what's inside. I wanted to seem cool to Mike since I, for whatever reason, looked up to him, so I agreed. When everyone was asleep, we went outside and kept close to the bunk. We waited until the lights in the counselors' bunks were out, which wasn't long since it was already late. Then we ran down the pavement leading through the counselors' bunks towards the abandoned bunk building. My heart was racing the whole time. I wasn't built to be doing mischievous things like this, not at that age at least. Mike led the way until we were by the door of the abandoned bunk. The front door was boarded up, which is one of the reasons why it caught our attention initially anyway. So we had to go through one of the windows, which, wouldn't you know it, there was one that was completely busted open already. We climbed into the abandoned bunk. Now these buildings were pretty big. They weren't little shacks like you might be picturing. Each bunk had room for at least 10 campers. This one was no exception. Mike and I stood in the dark bunk. It was kind of cold in there. We had our arms out in front of us to make sure we didn't walk into anything. I walked into a bunk bed numerous times, and I heard Mike doing the same. I stopped to listen to what Mike was doing, and I heard bouncing on one of the beds. "Shh, stop messing around," I told him. I assumed he was hopping up and down on one of the old bunk beds, but Mike's voice came from the complete opposite side of the room. As I remember, he said, "That's not me, I thought that was you." We had nothing to use as a light source, so we were in a pitch-black room in a building that hadn't been used for years, and all we heard was the sound of someone bouncing up and down on a squeaky mattress. Needless to say, we freaked out and ran for the window we entered from. It was tiny though, so it took a while to get out. While I was waiting for Mike to get out, the bouncing sound stopped. There was a loud thump sound. Whoever was bouncing on that bed must have jumped off. I jumped up to the window, and as I crawled through, I felt two hands grab onto my foot and try to pull me back in. But I was already out the window.
Bojangles tea.
We ran back to our bunk and locked the door. We contemplated running to the head counselor's bunk to tell them, but we figured we didn't want to get in trouble. Yes, looking back, that was a stupid decision, but we got through the night okay and went home the next day, living to tell the story another day.
Riley.
When I was in my senior year of high school, 17 years old, all that was on my and my friends' minds were girls. There was one girl in particular in my physics class that I was really into. Her name was Tiffany. Some guys called her Crazy Tiff because she was super hot, but also apparently really crazy according to her exes. That's irrelevant to this story though. Basically, my best friend CJ managed to get one of Tiffany's best friends, Gianna, to agree to come hang out at some beach with him and I that night since it was a Friday and the weather was warm. The best part, Tiffany agreed to come with. This was it, my big chance with Crazy Tiff. CJ pulled up to my house at 10 o'clock that night. I hopped in shotgun and we went to pick up Tiffany and Gianna. On our way there, we agreed our first priority was getting me alone with Tiffany and CJ getting alone with Gianna. I was extremely nervous, but when Tiffany and Gianna got in the car, things were actually going pretty smoothly. CJ and I managed to make them laugh a bunch of times. By the time we got to the beach, I was confident Tiffany and I would vibe really well alone. I don't remember the tiny details of what happened after we stepped out of the car and onto the dunes, but I do remember the beach being completely void of any other people, and CJ somehow managed to go off alone with Gianna into the darkness after a few minutes, just like we planned. Tiffany and I took a walk down to the water and wet our feet and whatnot. Then we just laid in the sand and talked for a while. Things were going smoothly until Tiffany pointed out to the ocean. "What is that?" she said. I looked to where she was pointing but didn't see anything. I was laughing at her apparent delusion and got up to go closer to the water in hopes of maybe seeing what she saw. My feet touched the cold water, and that's when I was close enough to see it. There was a long, vertically standing object in the water. I inched a little closer and saw it move. I jumped out of the water and ran back to Tiffany. "It's a person," I said quietly to her. It was truly bizarre, the fact that anyone would be in the freezing cold water at this hour. Tiffany wanted to move because she was uncomfortable, and it seemed like whoever it was just watching us. Somehow it just felt like that. So we took a walk further down the beach until we thought we had privacy.
Hey.
We sat back down on the beach with nothing but the sound of the ocean waves and our voices. But Tiffany was once again the one to point out something. "Do you hear that?" she asked me. I did kind of hear it. It was like a smaller kind of splashing sound, but it stopped just as soon as it started. We looked out to the ocean, and I heard Tiffany gasp. The guy was out there again. I was going to go out there and tell him to back off.
That was not a
Tiffany told me, "Let's just go." Low-key, I was hoping she would. I just wanted to look tough in front of her. We got back to the car. CJ and Gianna weren't back yet. Suddenly, my phone started blowing up with texts, all from CJ. Apparently, he'd been texting me in some kind of panic the whole time we were on the beach, and I guess I didn't have reception out by the water. He texted me first saying, "Dude, some weird guy is in the water watching us." And then, "Yo, some weird deformed looking guy is stalking us. Get to the car now." 5 minutes later, he sent a couple other texts, basically panicking over being followed by something in the dark. Keyword something, not someone, something. His second to last text said he was coming to look for us and to answer when I got this. His last text was, "We're on our way back to the car now, get there." He also tried calling me 3 times apparently.
Hide your wallet, cause I'm
I called him back at once and picked up right away.
Better hide your wallet,
Not
cause
even
I'm
letting me
that
speak.
too. Egg.
All he asked was if we were at the car.
Better hide your butt, 'cause I'ma take that too.
He said, "Good, stay right there," and hung up
That's
the
not
phone.
what they. That's not.
Less than 30
Okay.
seconds later, Gianna and CJ came out of the...
Sorry if you were listening to that story. I don't want to listen to it right now.
Are you just playing that for your viewers?
Yeah, pretty much. Not that anyone's even watching, because I don't think anyone is. I should check though. That'd be a good idea.
Back. Sweet's bad for me in your mouth.
I wonder if anyone is watching my stream.
What?
I'm gonna check if anyone's watching my stream. Oh wow, 63 subs. Nice.
Like I said, whenever you get 69, just quit.
Whoa! 5 likes?
Thank you guys for the 0 subscribers.
I got 5 likes.
What would
Man.
you do if I bought you subscribe?
Bro, you better not.
Kidding. Every fucking cousin.
There's just some kid named Peridot.
Hey, Munch, would you think you would eat any of those in a hot dog?
Maybe.
White people eat that stuff.
I gotta go,
Okay.
my cousins are here.
Oof. Okay, see ya.
I may call you later tonight. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'll be here.
Alright. Bye.
See ya. Well,
Are you just playing that for your viewers?
yeah, pretty much. Not that anyone's even watching.
The surrounding darkness next to the Jeep. He explained the best he could while trying to catch his breath that some deformed-looking creature walking on 2 legs was following them. I didn't know whether to laugh at what he said or not. I told him about how we saw someone in the water too. He asked me to describe what it looked like. I kept getting confused by his way of describing the person, as if they were a creature. I told him it looked like a really tall, lanky person standing in the water. He said he got a chance to get a closer look at it, and it was some kind of deformed humanoid thing. Tiffany and I looked at each other, and now we kind of nervously laughed. What he was saying was just too bizarre, but I think parts of both of us took him seriously. I didn't know whether to laugh at what he said.
$384.69. Okay, so 7. Okay. Could you put some salt on some of them?
Hey, Ronnie, can you start flushing the toilet?
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I did.
Because I always come into the bathroom and it's not flushed and there's pee.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, sure. Okay. Hey, Boone. Meow. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, 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 meow. My kitten, they don't meow. They just go, like, they make like a swirly meow hum noise. I don't know how to explain it better than that. It's really weird. Not bad though, just weird. I can't believe I died. That's sad. I had quite a lot of levels too. But it's okay. It happens. That's just the Minecraft experience, you know? You live, you build, you get good, then you just die. Just like that. But luckily, I'm good at this game. I've been playing it for over 10 years. I know my way around it. I know how things work. See, there's the outpost, just like that. That's another good reason I stream, because then I can just look back like 10 minutes into the past, and what do you know? All my stuff. So if I hadn't had a stream, I would be really, really mad right now. I'd probably be on the floor crying. But we all good, because I'm big brain. Probably should have been holding the second chance charm, but whatever. It's all good. Things happen. I'm alive. I'm happy. I'm fine. Where's my bread? There's my bread. 5 bread only? Wow. Okay, that's a bit of a letdown, but okay. Oh well, it's okay.
Seriously. Gianna vouched for what he was saying. That scream made us all jump into the car. It was some kind of half-human, half-demonic kind of screaming. I can't describe it, you just have to hear it. Needless to say, we were all frantic in the car, asking CJ questions mainly. But closer to the end of the ride, we all grew silent. I guess we were all just lost in our thoughts about what just happened. To give you an idea of how quickly all this happened, we were on the dunes for about half an hour. After I heard that sound, that scream, I did start to believe CJ partially, but I still feel like what I saw in the ocean was a person. But CJ's way of describing who, or what was following him as some kind of deformed humanoid thing on the beach is what still freaks me out the most. Our old town in Florida was right by a bunch of different beaches. My sisters and I would frequently go to the beach during the sunset hours because less people were there and the views were always beautiful. Sometimes we'd play volleyball, sometimes we'd go in the water, and sometimes we'd just lay in the sand. My youngest sister Ksenia, who was 13 years old, wanted to go in the water one night. The sun was setting and it was getting dark out, so as the older brother and basically the supervisor, I told her to be back in 10 minutes. She ran into the water, and after watching her for about a minute, I looked down at my phone. My other sister, who was 16 years old, wanted to play volleyball. I was up for it. There was a volleyball net and a poorly inflated volleyball sitting next to it. It was good enough, though. We made do with it. When I looked away from the volleyball net, I couldn't see Ksenia. I looked every possible direction she could have gone in the water. I did not see her. It was getting darker and harder to see. I ran to the water to try and find Ksenia. I ran into the water, and when I couldn't run anymore, I swam. She wasn't in the water anywhere, though. But I saw a boat nearby. A big, luxurious boat, close enough to swim over to. It took me a couple minutes, but I got there. I hoisted myself up onto the bow, off some tiny step ladder, and I heard laughing below deck. There was a hatch door that was opened, and there were lights on down there. I called out for help. Then there was silence. I called out that I was looking for my sister. Then I heard Ksenia's voice from below the deck. She called out my name. I hurried down the stairs into the cabin to see Ksenia sitting on a bed with a Coke in her hand. Further down the cabin were 2 grown-ass men sitting opposite each other, looking at me. I grabbed Ksenia into my arms, and one of the men said with a smile that I have a very nice sister. The other man seemed to catch on to my suspicion right away and claimed that the 2 of them were just offering to give her a ride and some snacks because they saw her all alone in the water. I didn't even say a word to them. One of them asked if we needed a ride back to shore. I didn't answer. I told Ksenia to swim back to the beach with me. We got back to shore in a couple minutes, and the boat was far gone into the sunset. I brought my 2 sisters home and had my dad figure out what he should do. First of all, he was mad at me for not getting details of the boat or the men's faces, and he was right. My dad punished Ksenia and prohibited her from going to the beach past sunrise from there on out. I have a beach house in Florida that I tend to visit with my girlfriend in the colder months up north. In the warmer months, we'd still visit occasionally, but nowhere near as much since there wasn't as much of a need to. It was early February, freezing up in Connecticut, so my girlfriend and I took a trip down to Florida to visit the beach house. By the time we actually got to the house after the day-and-a-half drive, it was starting to get dark out. It was actually a long month and a half since I'd been there last at the time. The electricity, the water, and everything was already on since it was wintertime, and I kept everything on during the winter season due to our frequent visits. So all we had to do when we arrived to the house was unpack, take a couple lounge chairs, and walk 20 seconds onto the beach and take a nap. We didn't even check out any of the other rooms because we were so drained. We lounged on the beach until it got really dark. Then my girlfriend tapped my shoulder. I looked up at her, and she asked if I left that light on. I turned to the house and saw one of the upstairs lights on. Not just that, but at one of the windows in that room, there was a shadow outline behind the partially opened curtains. I looked at my girlfriend, and she looked at me, and I think it sunk into both of us that someone was in that room at that window. I told her to wait there. I ran to the house as fast as I could. When I got to the back doors, when I started being quiet, I slid it open and shut quietly, and being that I was barefoot made tiptoeing a bit easier. I made it to the stairway and then halfway up the stairs before I heard a door shut upstairs. I went up the remaining stairs a bit quicker now and saw that the door to the room that had the light on was open, but the lights were off now. I went into the room which had the light on not even 2 minutes ago. I kept the light off though. Instead, I just used the flashlight which I had on the shelf ledge upstairs. Then I remembered the closet door. It was shut. That must have been the door I heard close, I figured. I shut off the flashlight as I tiptoed to the door of the closet and slowly put my ear up to it to listen. There was nothing but silence in the room and on the other side of the closet door. I wasn't sure what was going to happen when I opened that door, if someone was in fact on the other side, but I had to confront this. I grabbed the 2 little knobs and finally brought myself to yank the doors open, but it was empty in there, or at least from what I could tell, it was dark. I grabbed my flashlight and switched it on. Nope, the closet was empty, but a creak in the floorboards outside of the room caught my attention. I ran into the hall expecting to see the intruder, but no, it was just my girlfriend. I got mad at her for coming into the house, even though I told her to stay put. But now that she was there, I told her to help search the upstairs. We looked around in all 3 bedrooms upstairs, all the closets, and the bathroom, but there was no one. Then we checked the downstairs. Every room, every closet. No one. We had to figure that whoever was in the house somehow escaped, so we locked all the doors and looked around the house for any signs of breaking and entering or stolen items. But there was neither of that. So we brushed up and went to bed since we were exhausted. However, that night before we could even fall asleep, there was a click under our bed. I asked my girlfriend if she could hear that. She said yes. I got out from under the bed and got down on my knees. When my face got to the ground level giving me a view under the bed, I could see the intruder laying under our bed. I looked at him face to face before he crawled out and made a break for the front door. I couldn't catch him once he got outside because I was still barefoot. I also didn't get a very good look at his face because we only looked at each other for about a second. We once again searched the whole house to see what he could have stolen, but surprisingly, nothing was stolen. We couldn't even figure out how he broke in. We didn't call the cops. We simply moved on and did our best to enjoy the rest of our vacation.
Rudy! Oh, yeah, Rudy. I said a boat, Chico.
I joined a gym for the first time 3 months ago. Now, a gym is really the last place you'd ever expect something scary to happen. But last week, I had the most horrific experience of my life. I wear one of those wireless headphones when I go to the gym because the wired ones always get in the way and they're just annoying. Sometimes I'll leave my phone on a workout machine when I walk to the water fountain, and when the phone gets too far from the headphones start getting staticky before disconnecting. I only knew because it happened a couple times before when I walked away too far from my phone in the gym. Well, one late night last week, I was one of the last people still in the gym. I was on one of the seated leg machines. I began my set of 20. While I was pushing towards my final reps, the music in my headphones started getting staticky until my headset said, "Disconnected from phone." I stopped my set and reached over to the phone compartment on top of the machine, and I filled with worry when I couldn't feel my phone. It wasn't there. I looked around the gym desperately, thinking someone might have taken it. I only saw 2 other people in the whole gym though, excluding the guy sitting at the front desk. One guy was really fat and sweaty, and the other guy was sitting on one of the machines looking down at his phone. Which one could have taken my phone, if either of them? I had to approach the guy sitting on his phone, as much as I didn't want to. He had earbuds in, so when I approached him, he looked at me with a confused look on his face, as if he didn't want me to be talking to him. He took one earbud out and looked at me, and I firmly asked him, "Did you take my phone?" He looked at me in silence for a couple seconds, then said, "No." There was obvious attitude. I asked him if he saw anyone else walking by recently, and he just shook his head no. For some dumb reason, I said thanks and walked away, when I deep down wanted to tell him to quit being a dick. I went to the front desk and asked the worker to check the video cameras and see once and for all who actually took my phone. As the guy working the front clicked around on his computer, the rude guy who I spoke to walked past me and out the exit. The worker then turned the computer screen so that I could see it, and clicked play on the video, which showed the guy who left 15 seconds ago taking my phone. I thanked the employee and ran to catch the guy who just left, but by the time I got outside, the guy was nowhere to be found. The scary thing that sunk in right away was the fact that I recently disabled my passcode lock to my phone, meaning he had access to all of my apps, all of my texts, pictures, emails, all of my data basically. I went back inside and asked the employee to track that man's membership info, but when he checked the cameras, the guy didn't even check in. He simply walked past the counter unnoticed. So there were no records of this guy even being a member of the gym. The footage showed that he suspiciously walked around between machines, looking around a lot like a nervous person. I asked the employee to report that to the police. He said he'd show it to his boss tomorrow. The next day, I called my best friend Tom so I could tell him why I wouldn't be answering texts for a while, and to also see if he could tell all my other friends what happened. He started freaking out on the phone, begging me to tell him I was kidding about losing my phone. He told me someone had been sending him texts and came to his house. I didn't understand, so he said he'd be over to show me. 10 minutes later, Tom got to my house and showed me a long conversation between him and someone using my phone pretending to be me. It started out with the person on my phone saying, "Hey, can I stay at your place tonight? I got in a huge fight with my parents." Tom said, "Yeah, let me know when you come over." Then the guy who was using my phone said, "Can you just leave your back door open? I'm gonna be over super late and I don't want to wake you." The conversation went on a little while longer before Tom finally agreed to just leave his back door.
Yeah, they're not biscuits.
Tom went back to sleep under the impression that it was actually me who would be coming through that back door. When we finished reading the
They
conversation,
taste better
Tom
than
looked up at me
biscuits.
and said,
I mean, better than
"Cameras."
biscuits. Well, I guess
We
either
rushed
works.
to his house together and watched the footage captured on the cameras throughout his house. I was disturbed, but also not surprised, to see that man from the gym who took my phone walking in through the back door of Tom's house. He scavenges the place, grabbing expensive household objects and throwing them in his pockets. He moves from the den to the kitchen and eventually to the upstairs.
Yeah, give me a
I saw the
minute.
fear in Tom's face when he watched the man on the camera in the upstairs hallway open his bedroom door, step in for about 20 seconds, and come back out, leaving the door open. The man was in the house for about 10 minutes before sneaking back out the back door. It looked like he took a lot of valuables. Tom and I sent the video footage to the police, and when I went back to the gym, the manager told me she'd be sending their footage as well. 3 months later, not a word from the police, so whoever stole my phone and snuck into Tom's house got away with it scot-free. currently go to a 24-hour gym in my town. It's usually on the quieter side most of the day, but during the night hours it really becomes a ghost town. I don't quite understand how they could afford to stay open 24/7. I had to work late one night to cover for someone else's shift, so I got off work at 11 p.m. I planned on heading right over to the gym to get a quick midnight workout in. When I got there, nobody else was there. I was the only one working out. Well, only for about 10 minutes, until I finally spotted someone else working out. It made me feel a little less odd for being there so late. The guy was wearing a beanie and a hoodie. I was sweating just looking at him, to be honest. I mean, yeah, it was cold out, but it wasn't cold in the gym. I barely had enough time to analyze his odd clothing decision before he started staring me down. I looked back for as long as I felt comfortable before deciding to look away. I felt like he seemed to be challenging my dominance because I still felt his stare through my peripheral vision. I kept shooting.
Maybe, I know they do. Thanks for making them.
That's what I do, bud. You're an napkin.
I'm good.
Hey yo, Block Friday.